of the Zoning Board of Adjustment was sent by email to the Asbury Park Press and the Co-Star, our official newspapers, and posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Take roll call. Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Gregg?
Here.
Ms. Hayner? Here. Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mr. Lubin?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Diorio?
Here.
And Mr. Almeida and Ms. Frizell are absent.
Okay, everyone please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's hope we do well in the Olympics this year. Mr. Kennedy, we've got some business to tend to.
Good evening. Yes, so, you want to do the minutes first?
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 27th meeting?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Mr. Ross? Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Diorio?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next was approving the application of 409th Avenue. That was bulk variance relief to install a cover over a second-story balcony. And the application was approved, and the only conditions of note were, I think, just touch-up plans with the plans, confirmation that the originally existing structure was a 1.5-story structure, and I think confirmation of the property address was somewhere inaccurate on the plans, I think, and also just that there be no enclosure of that covered second-story balcony absent for the approval of the zoning board. If those are acceptable, they can be adopted.
Make a motion to adopt. I'll second.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Diorio?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the next is a resolution dismissing the application without prejudice. This is Kristen C.C. Mara, 103 9th Avenue, Unit 8. You'll recall we had that last meeting, and there were some issues and questions and concerns that the board wanted addressed with regard to the association. And the applicant's attorney thereafter submitted a written letter saying, we're just going to withdraw the application. So this dismisses the application without prejudice. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, gets it cleared off of April's books. Two, there's always a possibility that if the application is hanging out too long and becomes stale, it could be automatically approved. And this lets April return any money.
We have notice from them saying they requested that their application be.
Yes, the attorney spoke with me, and then he actually sent a confirming email.
Mr. Kennedy, before we, do we have to approve that?
We'll just dismiss that resolution,
Are we
yes.
gonna-
Dismiss the application without
Before we do, I
prejudice.
just want to make a comment on that. It's clear, given what has transpired since the meeting, that there were a lot of misrepresentations made during that application. I think the attorney misrepresented things. I think that the architect misrepresented things, leading us to lean to think that there was at least a minimum of a 1-foot setback, which actually did not exist. I just want to reiterate, when it comes to these hearings, that we're taking these professionals, at their word. I'm not really sure what the recourse is if they were to come back and continue to pursue this. But I feel that the false information that was provided to the board of the meeting is a problem, and we just have to be cautious of that, not only for this
Absolutely.
application, but for all the applications going forward, because we want to trust what's being presented to us as accurate. We can't trust it. These meetings are going to take a really long time to come.
Excellent point, and I would add 3 things in response to that to supplement that. Number one, in a weird way, this does prove that the system works, because we said, well, hey, we need more information, and some of you said, well, should I
Yeah,
go?
but if
I
I
go?
take that to a vote on inaccurate information that was testified.
That's number one. And number two, there is a line in our resolution, it's very standard, that everything that we do and everything that we voted on is based upon the truthfulness and the accuracy of the plans and the information. And if there's any issues, everything is potentially brought up again.
It could be avoided.
And number three, one of the things that we can start doing, if the board is in that, with sometimes when we approve applications with conditions, sometimes if you want, we can put in there a requirement that the applicant's engineer, architect, or whoever the professional is, certify after the fact that the revisions have been made in accordance with the plans were approved, in accordance with the testimony, in accordance with the resolution. And that will be just the one other system of the checks and balances, so it's not just on 10 in April to figure out, they have to certify that all those conditions have been satisfied.
Okay, all right, so we need a motion to approve the withdrawal of the sick
Correct.
application. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Start here.
Mr.
Second and
Ross?
third.
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Fiore?
Yes.
Anything else, Mr. Kenny?
That's it for me.
Okay, nothing else to cover, we could go right to.
Yeah, we'll do the other thing at the end.
Okay, there's something at the end, so after the last case, I just want to ask the board to stand by because April has something she'd like to cover. So with that, we have 4 applications tonight, I'm going to say to the audience, and you know, we have a hard stop at 10. So I'm going to ask each applicant to max budget their time to 1 hour in fairness to the other 3 people that are coming behind you, other 2 people or 1 person coming behind you. Should you need more time, if you go over the hour, okay, you can stay here tonight, and then if the other applications don't take up their full time, bring you back at 9, 9:30. So it's not like you can't be finished tonight, but I just want to be clear that in fairness to everybody, I think an hour is more than enough time for the applications that I'm looking at. And if it's not, we're going to have to cut it an hour and then circle back at 9 or 9:30 if we have time left. And if not, then we'd have to reschedule it for a future meeting, okay? So with that, our first application for tonight is Sarahco Property Management, 1223 Briarwood Road.
Okay, and as the team comes forward, we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is a development application, and it's dated January 31st, 2024. A2 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated January 19th, 2024 / January 30th, 2024. A3 is a survey, and that's prepared by Charles O'Malley, and that's dated May 26, 2020. A4 is the application checklist, and A5 is the floor plans and elevations prepared by, dated February 8, 2024, consisting of 2 sheets, prepared by Shishas Design and Development. And you'll recall that we took notice 2 months ago at an application. And so what we're going to do, we accepted jurisdiction, we accepted the notice. We will swear in for the first 4 times tonight, Ted Bianchi. Ted is our zoning officer. Ted, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening, this is John Anderson, the applicant's attorney. Good evening and welcome to Belmar.
Hi, John Anderson of Flossham, Philippona Mill, on behalf of the applicant, Sarahco Property Management, 1223 Briarwood Road. As Mr. Kennedy said, we previously accepted jurisdiction. This property is an undersized property within your R50 zone. It's about 3,750 square feet, where your otherwise requires about 5,000 square feet. It's presently developed with a single-family home. It's a 2-story home. It's got a driveway that runs basically the depth of the lot on the right-hand side, accessing an existing detached garage. And the proposal here is simply to add a small addition to the first floor only. Second floor stays unchanged, driveway is unchanged, garage is unchanged. The addition's just over 200 square feet. Not really going to be very visible from the road because it expresses itself along the depth of the house. So it's about a 5-foot wide addition. We're going to hold all the setbacks. We are going to be within the height. We're well within habitable floor area ratio, but we do require 2 small variances from you this evening. One for building coverage, one for lot coverage. I think it's probably not a stretch to say they're relatively de minimis. The building coverage is just a 1.7% deviation, and the lot coverage is, I believe it's 3.9%. Overall, the home's pretty modest as it is. It's just over 1,100 square feet. The proposal is going to take it to 1,385 square feet, so it still remains a larger space. It's pretty essential because it's set up like a boxcar style. So you walk into the home to get the next room, you gotta walk through one room to get there. This allows for a little bit more flow, a hallway with some rooms off of it. Greatly improves the overall layout, and we don't think it comes with many negatives. So if we could get Mr. Shishai's sworn in, he'll tell you about the plans.
Sure, and just if you know offhand, just because it's an LLC, do you know offhand the principals of the company, so we can just do an internal conflict check?
Yes, absolutely. So it's Mr. Michael Sirico. He cannot be with us this evening because he's recovering from a retinal surgery, but he's the only.
Okay, and now hearing those names, any conflicts, questions about conflicts? Okay, none. So, good evening, if you could just state your name for the record,
Sure. Al Shisias,
and just spell your last name?
Shisias.
ShissisIas.
Correct.
And your business address?
27 First Street, 1ST, in Rumson, New Jersey.
All right, and if you could just raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
And just for the record, you're testifying tonight in your capacity as a licensed, certified,
Architect, State of New Jersey.
and licenses and certifications are up to date.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as Mr. Anderson gave a good rundown, the existing home, single-family residence, primarily is very narrow. The second floor has 3 small bedrooms, 2 in the front. Again, very narrow, 1 in the rear, 1 bathroom on the side at the top of the stairs. That's unaffected by the proposed addition. Mr. Serico, when he approached me, the issue was to make this a longer-term house for his family to enjoy in the short term, during weekends, things like that. He wants to enjoy the house more with his family, bring people down to Belmar with him. The first floor really does not work very well. You walk into a small alcove, living room, and then a combined kitchen dining in the rear. Everything's very tight, very small bathroom, definitely does not meet code next to the stair. The prerogative was to create a small, flexible, additional bedroom on the first floor while maintaining a usable living room, and then getting a full bath on the first floor, obviously up to code, as well as getting a larger kitchen with an eat-in dining, as well as a laundry that's currently located in a Yankee basement, very difficult to access, very low headroom. So the solution was to add, to the extent that we could, and still stay within setbacks. He probably would have liked to add more addition to get more dimension, but we felt that staying within the setback was important. Extending out to the left side, we have the bedroom, bathroom kind of in the middle toward the front with the living room. A lot of challenges to the floor plan, and adding a laundry and kitchen at the rear. The proposed elevations show that the idea is there is a lower first floor roof over a 1-story extension toward the street. The thought is just to wrap that around the side of the house, which will actually kind of scale the house down fairly well, and that will cover the 1-story 5-foot projection. Just for reference, brought an aerial.
We should mark that, Mr. Kennedy.
So we're up to A6, I think. A6 is an aerial photograph.
Correct.
Is that like a Google Earth
Google
image?
Earth, yeah. I'm not sure how up there. The property itself looks current to
Okay.
what's existing. I don't know what date it was.
Can you identify the subject property?
Yep, and Google even has it marked per the street address as 1223, so you can kind of get a sense of the density of the neighborhood. It is pretty dense. I think right now the house is pretty in scale with the neighborhood. It's about 28 feet, which is about 7 feet under the max height. So the thing that's really driving the 2 variances, again, I feel relatively minor, the lot coverage and building coverage, is primarily the driveway that to access the rear detached garage and the garage itself. The house itself is, again, I don't think out of scale by any means with the neighborhood.
Can you give the board the existing square footage for the driveway and the garage respectively?
Yes, the existing driveway is approximately almost 900 square feet, 896, and the garage is 246. So if you add those up, that's, let's say, call it 1,150. So that's 1,150 of the proposed 2,200 roughly square feet. So it's
More than 50% of the coverage is
Yeah.
occupied by the driveway and the
Correct.
attached garage, which are there.
correct. And it's difficult, you know, I talked to Mr. Serico about, is there a way to reduce the driveway? He felt by living there, he really did not like that idea of cutting the driveway back at all. I can understand why. It is very difficult to access the drive right now, and removing any driveway seemed to be a challenge, so.
Mr. Shishais, do you have some photos of the home, maybe better illustrate the conditions?
Correct.
Conditions?
Yep.
So we'll mark this as A7. This is a photo board containing 4 photographs
Correct.
of the subject property
Yes.
and taken by,
They were taken by me, Mr. Kennedy.
okay, roughly when?
Within the last few weeks.
Thank you.
Mr. Shishais, you're familiar with the home, correct?
Yes,
You
yep.
visited the home this evening?
Yep, drove by today, everything seems to be the same from when I started the project. Yes,
Those appear to be accurate representations of the home at 1223 Broadway.
correct, yep.
Show the board what you're seeing.
Yeah, so you can see from the street view, a front elevation. The front door is going to stay approximately where it is. We're proposing to rebuild a pretty dilapidated stoop, small landing, masonry presumably. This is also kind of a right-sided front view, so you can see a little more of the driveway. You can kind of see the garage door in the back, how it lines up, and how it would be difficult to reduce the driveway in the rear. The garage itself with the garage and the man door, and you can see the driveway that's shown in the site plan and the survey, and again, another front view.
Any other lot coverage other than the principal structure, the garage and the driveway?
As far as
I guess
what's
the front walkway.
what's counted. Yeah, I would say the other things contributing would be the front walk, which is pretty small. Front steps, as mentioned, it's going to get reconstructed, slightly expanded to meet code for a landing. Rear stoop and steps will remain the same. An outdoor shower, which is going to get relocated. Currently, it's on the side yard. We're going to propose to put it right at the rear, just due to the setback being only 5 feet, and also relocate a single condenser unit to the side.
But no pools, no large outdoor patios or anything like that that would be driving
No.
coverage?
Nope.
If the lot were hypothetically 5,000 square feet, which is the minimum required for the zone, would the proposed home comply with the building and lot coverage?
Yes, yeah, by far. If everything was to stay the same and the lot width just increased to 50, which maybe was the intent of the zone, instead of the 37.5, yes, we'd be well within coverages.
And based upon your site visit, the aerial you showed, does it appear that there's any adjacent available lots that would be required to in any way ameliorate our lot width or lot area deficiencies?
I don't believe so. I think they are all already minimum lot, I believe, minimum lot size. I'm sure the owners.
All appear to be developed with homes?
Yeah, and developed, yep.
I don't have any, no, strike that. Let me ask you this. So you designed the 5-foot wide addition to the home. Given that it's going to fit within the setbacks for the lot, do you see any obvious detriments to the public good or the zone plan or zoning ordinance in connection with your design?
I don't think so. Again, pretty de minimis as far as an addition goes. 5 feet is pretty small. Obviously, very important to the owner to get 5 feet because it's going to be pretty expensive on a square foot basis to do that. I think if anything, it definitely makes the house more functional, which I think is always a benefit. I think it scales down one side to some extent, so I don't see a negative. The neighbor on the left, we're within that 5-foot setback, so.
And we're talking about a 1-story additions, no intrusion on light, air, or open space.
Yes.
Based upon your tour of the neighborhood, did it appear that what you've designed is harmonious with the other homes in the neighborhood?
Yes, I don't think it's out of scale in any way.
I don't have any further questions. So we'll just invite the board and the professionals to ask me.
Yeah, that's where we're coming. We're going to combine all of our board questions at once as opposed to do it individually, so are you done with the presentation?
At this point, my only witness is the architect. So.
Okay, great. So we're going to open this up for board questions at this time.
I have a question about moving the air conditioning
Dennis. Ted, doesn't that have to be within the 5-foot setback?
Well, it can't be in the 5-foot setback. I was gonna ask,
Because
what's gonna
that's
happen to the shower,
2.2.
the AC unit,
Okay,
when you extend the structure?
that has to be beyond the 5 feet.
Can't be in the 5-foot setback.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're
Which
in the
means it's
5-foot
gonna have to go in
zone.
the back.
Yes, yeah, I didn't realize that, so I think the homeowner would be okay with moving it to the back. Just a longer run, a little less efficient, but I think that's fine.
That's the only question I have.
So I just want to clarify, so we're agreeing that the air conditioning will be placed in a code compliant location in the rear of the house?
Rear yard beyond 5 feet.
Yes, and the shower there?
Shower also.
And then, yeah, currently proposed.
That's already
is-
there,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I think it's shown as a good spot, right? Yeah, okay, great, okay. Okay, well,
No questions.
Okay,
Already answered it, so.
gotcha.
yeah, this is one of the more simpler applications I've seen. I don't have any questions.
This is from the addition on the addition is on the back of the house.
The addition's actually on the side, so it's just, it's like taking the first floor and just extruding it 5 feet. Technically, the side, front, back.
Yeah, that answers my question right there.
Gotcha.
Mr. Ross?
Yeah, I thought I saw a fence across your driveway. Are you able to pull back to the garage in the driveway for cars?
Sorry, can you
I
say
thought there was a, maybe it's.
You may be right. that there's
2 months ago, when I went
chain
by the
link
site, there was
style
a fence that went across the
think you're
driveway.
right.
Can you access the entire driveway with vehicles?
Yeah, you're right, I do see that. It's open in this photo. I've not seen it closed myself, I didn't notice it, but it looks like it's a double gate.
Okay.
So you're saying if it while open, can you drive through it, or if it's
Yeah,
closed?
that's
Do
my
you have the
question. I guess my question is,
approximate width on the
If
driveway?
if a car can't get through it, then it can't count as a parking space.
correct.
Yeah,
It says
I,
10.5.
so 10.5 and then figure minus maybe, it's a little less than 10.5. Let's see, what is this? 10.
We need 9.
It looks about
9
9
feet.
feet, so an average car with a, yeah.
Okay. So my question, I guess ultimately then is, do you have enough parking on site to accommodate, because I think you're adding a bedroom, right?
The additional bedroom. Yes, I believe so.
RSIS would probably consider the 1-car garage to be 2 spaces, and then you'd have the full depth of the driveway, which extends basically the depth of the lot of the garage itself.
The driveway itself is about 80 feet from the face of the garage to the property line, a little bit more than 80.
Okay.
So, I don't know, do the parking spaces need to be beyond the front yard setback in Belmar?
They can start at this front yard, property line.
Right at the property, so then that would be 4 spaces, which I think would
Oh,
cover,
you need-
Excluding
you need
the garage.
three.
excluding the garage.
You're gonna need 3.
Need 3, so we have 4, excluding the garage.
We have more than adequate under your ordinance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Okay, so we're going to close the board question, open up to public questions. Anyone here from the public to comment or question regarding this application? Now will be the time to raise your hand and come to the microphone. Seeing none, going once, going twice, none. So we're going to close the public session, and we'll open it up to board. Questions?
I have no further comments.
No further comments?
No comment.
No further comments?
No comments.
No, I have one comment, is about the only thing we can do, and I'm all in favor of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the application.
And as stated, just, for the record, the increase of 1.7% over building lot coverage and 3.9% over lot coverage is one of the smaller asks that I've seen in the 12 years that I've been here when it comes to a lot or building coverage. So I appreciate, keeping in with the size of the lot, and, we don't have any objectors here. So, with that, Mr. Kenny, I think we could sum up.
Sure. If the application's going to be approved, some of the standard conditions would be compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations the team made. John, there's usually a requirement that you get a building permit within 24 months of the adoption of the resolution, compliance with all affordable housing obligations and contributions, if applicable, grading and drainage details to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer, outside approvals, and obviously if the outside approvals change the nature of the application and requested relief, they have to come back. what we just talked about, that we can just get a certification after the fact that the plans have been revised and prepared in accordance with what was approved as a testimony in the resolution, and air conditioner and shower in a zoning compliant location. Ted, is there anything about the outside showers, how it has to drain, or do I need to put anything in there? No, okay. And then the only other conditions that we talked about were, we'll just make sure that the 9-foot accommodates the vehicle. And I think that was it, Mr. Chairman, so if that's acceptable, we can adopt that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. So,
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Ms. Weimer?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Diorio?
Yes. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Congratulations. Good luck with the project. Okay, we'll move right to the second application, which is the state of
Okay, and as the applicant's team comes forward, we have a couple of things. First up, is there anyone here with any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice there? Okay, so the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order, so it is my humble opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed. And what we will mark into the record is what we as a board have before us. A1 is the application, and it's dated April 10th, 2024. And A2 is, I'm going to call it an application narrative or description attachment. And A3 is a series of two photographs. You look at A3A and A3B. And Mr. Schieffer's going to momentarily describe them. A4 is the application checklist. A5 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated March 20th, 2024 / March 21st, 2024. A5 and A6 are the floor plans and elevations prepared by M.B. Hearn Architect, and it's dated March 18, 2024, consisting of 6 pages. And so what we'll do is we will again swear in Ted Bianchi, zoning official. Ted, do you swear that the information that you're about to provide, to the extent you provide them, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Schieffer.
Good evening. Hang on a second, Mr. Schreiber. A couple of board members just have a question. In Ted's denial, he mentions that the new structure is not in compliance with 40-7.3. Ted, could you educate us on what that non-compliance, it says related to fire damage. Could you tell us more about what that non-compliance is? It says the new structure does not comply with 40-7.3.
Mr. Chairman, before we get there, could we finish marking the exhibits? Ms. Herndon has a couple more, or do you want to just?
No, well, before we start hearing, the board is asking the zoning officer a question regarding his denial.
I got it, okay.
I know you're going to want to get into that.
Yes.
So I think it's fair for Ted to educate us.
Fair. My
as to
plan
why
is
he
gonna address most.
flagged that. Okay.
That ordinance says that you can't expand anything after you can repair what's there,
Right,
but you can't expand.
right, okay.
And this is apparently expansion.
Okay, so the new structure that was proposed is not in compliance, that's what you're saying. The proposal triggers that ordinance, and it's not compliant.
Mr. Chairman, could I say?
You understand?
Yeah, whatever.
I think, and Ted, tell me if I'm wrong, so previously there were 2 structures on the lot, which is a pre-existing non-conforming use. And the pre-existing non-conforming use regulations are sort of weird, but it says if they're allowed to exist because they're grandfathered, pre-existing, but the caveats are if there's a little bit of damage, you're automatically allowed to repair it to where it was, but if it's totally damaged, you lose your rights. And so this, apparently, what I'm told is that this home was completely damaged and demolished, so they lose their rights. So they can't rebuild the second home on the site unless they get the use
Mr.
variance.
Kenny, I'm not questioning what you just said, but it just seems different than what Ted told us. because Ted's indicating that they can put back exactly what was there, and you're saying that they're relinquishing the rights to do anything, so.
Ted's saying they can do that if they get use variance approval to put, because he's saying they can't just put back a second dwelling on the lot unless we give them use variance approval to do that.
Even if it's identical in size
If
to
it's
the front,
destroyed by fire,
right,
you can put back exactly what was there.
right, I
You
understand.
can't expand it, you can't go
I
up, you
understand.
can't go out.
I understand that, that's what I
So
was
if it's
just
not,
said.
if it's not exactly like that,
That's what I heard, but then when
Okay.
Mr.
I'll
Kennedy
defer
said
to
that they're back to zero.
right, so he doesn't need a use
Okay,
variance
Kennedy.
if he's gonna
Okay.
put back
I don't
exactly
mean
like
to
it was.
correct
Got
you,
it.
but I'm correcting you.
Got it, I'll know that.
Okay. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, Mr. Shipers, please proceed. Oh, by the way, you weren't here. It's 6:35, 7:35, and then if after the other cases, you can come back if we go past that.
Oh, no,
I'm just, you were not in the room. Ms. Hearn
You got 1
was.
hour.
Ms. Hearn was.
I'm the new improved Shipers. Yeah.
We've seen some of
The
them.
verbosity has come out of me. So normally I always agree with Kevin Kennedy and will generally not disagree with his interpretation. But my hat is off to Ted. Ted called it, and that'll be a little bit of my opening statement once, if we could just mark Mary's, a couple of exhibits so we could stream along.
All right, so we are A7, Marietta.
A7 is a photo board, 4 photos on the front of the subject property, 3 photos on the back of the subject property and the neighborhood. That's A,
A7.
Thank you.
And those pictures were taken by you?
yes,
Roughly when?
yesterday.
Okay, so that's a pretty accurate depiction of what exists.
Yes.
Got it.
The aerials are off the internet.
So A8 is an aerial photograph.
No, the aerials that are on the back
Oh,
of A7, I did not take.
got it.
And they do not depict exactly what's there, because they're old enough that they actually show the original home that was destroyed by
Got it.
fire. Then I have a colored site plan.
So that's A8 is an illustrated site plan prepared by your office?
Yes,
Date?
today.
7/25/2024.
And I have colored elevation, separate,
So that's A9, illustrated
today.
elevation, MB Hearn today, and it's the same as what was submitted but for the back illustrated?
That is, but the previous one is not. The site
Okay.
plan I enlarged.
Got it.
It's identical but enlarged.
Okay.
You want any of this up, or wait?
You can keep them for when you're ready. All right, Mr. Kennedy, I don't know if you did or you didn't, but if you would swear Mary Hearn, Joe Kishuba.
Sure. Mary, just state your name for the record, please,
Mary Hearn,
and business address.
1007 Suite B, Main Street, Belmar.
Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
And just for the record, you're testifying tonight as a licensed, certified,
Architect.
and all your licenses and certifications are current and up to date, correct?
Correct.
And I think you've been here before,
I
right?
think so.
And then Joseph Kishuba.
Hello, good evening. You can state your name and business address, please.
Joseph Bishuva, KBA Engineering Services, Manasquan, New Jersey.
All right, good evening. And do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
And for the record, you're testifying tonight in your capacity as,
Licensed engineer, licensed planner.
and your licenses and certifications are current and up to date?
That is correct.
And you too have been sworn and accepted by this board as professional, correct?
Oh, sure.
My final person would be John Coley. John, stand up wherever you are. John is the executor of the estate of Francis Coley, and I may have a question or two for him along the way, so I just ask that you.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Belmar zoning board. If you could just state your name and raise your right hand.
John E. Coley Jr.,
Okay, and address?
675 Rifle Camp Road, Woodland Park, New Jersey, 07424.
Okay, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I did.
And you're the executor of the subject estate?
That's correct.
Thank you.
For the record, William Schaefer, Shanley Schaefer, Zimlonsky, Belmar, on behalf of the applicant. And aunt here, who's in attendance, lost her life, left the earth from Surf Avenue in Belmar. And I'm going to take 10 seconds of a moment of silence for her and her family, who I'm honored to represent. Thank you. I'd also like, on behalf of the family, just to thank the first responders. I believe I don't have the article in front of me, but I recall it. I think Frank Samantha was alerted to the fire. I think some of the new elected officials or appointed officials ran to the fire, tried to assist. And I have a personal link here. When I was 25 years old, I tried to rescue a woman from a burning building unsuccessfully. And it's tragic. It's tear-jerking. So I'm humbled. I'm honored that Colleen retained myself and Mary and Joe to represent them for this home. And I don't just look at this application as any application. I look at it as an application that hopefully reunite and help heal a hole like that hole in the block that exists from the passing of Francis. This was the family's gathering spot of multi-generations. They've owned that property for now about 50 years or so. And Mr. Fitzgerald, you're the only one on the board that voted for that home's addition in July of 2014. So you're a legacy from helping this family.
Don't try to butter me.
Build that. I like to argue with you. That's all how it is. I just wanted to also point out how old both of us are.
I thought you were going to point out that I live on Surf Avenue.
Oh, no, we don't do that. So on behalf of the family, Mr. Bianchi is very correct. Mary designed a replacement home, and with Mary's judgment, you'll see when she testifies, the old existing home had more inconsistencies. It was set on the property in a, I don't want to say poor position, but not as good as Mary designed this new home. In particular, there is literally no difference in the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms from the home that burned, but she did shift the footprint. FAR went from 58 to 59.5, marginal difference. Tried to keep it very similar as to what existed previously. And those tweaks and differences, trying to make a better home than replacing the existing home on what we felt was an inferior footprint. That's why we're here, as per Mr. Bianchi's denial. Thank you. And Mary Durham will be my first witness.
Okay.
You want one of the boards up?
Mary, I'm going to step out of your way and take the board through what existed,
I'm
the
just going to
vacancy,
offer the
and what you're
photo board
proposing.
up to you. There's not a lot that way, and there are aerials on the back. And then I'm going to put the site plan up. So I'm going to put up A8. And A8 is identical to the proposed site plan on your cover sheet. I just made it bigger and turned it so that it fit on the sheet because it's just easier to see bigger, but it's identical. We are at the corner of Surf and 18th. There's a 1.5-story bungalow at the corner, so we are the northeast corner, and that is there now. We hope to have that remain. And then just to the north of it was the house that was damaged and destroyed. It's been taken down. There's nothing there now but an empty piece of the property, and we would like to build another home there for the Coley family. And I've marked in red on this drawing, and it's also on your cover sheet on the proposed, so the site plan that's to the right on your drawing shows the footprint of where the home was. That's no longer there. And when you look at that outline, it helps you see the change, the major change that we like to make in building the new home. And that's bringing the home further to the west to a line on the street. and to pull it off of the easterly property line where it was very close before, and pull it off of the northerly property line where it was very close before, into a more compliant location. We're here tonight, and I'll circle back, seeking two bulk variances. One's a use variance and one's a bulk. So two structures on one lot is the use variance that we're seeking, and then one bulk variance is the rear setback, and that's to the north. Because we are a corner lot, we have two fronts. We have one side, which is the east side, and we have one rear, which is the north side. And in the R40 zone, the rear yard setback requirement is 25 feet. And you can see that is right here. I'm pointing again to A8, more than midway through where we hope to put the house again. The existing home was 2.9 feet off the northerly property line. We're proposing it at 5.1. And the reason we're proposing it at 5.1, one main reason, is it acts like a side yard to the neighbor to the north, more than a rear yard. It is the side of the neighbor to the north's home, and it is the side of the home we're proposing. And typically, we require 5 feet minimum to a side, so we've set that new dimension at 5.1 feet. And then the hope was to pull the home off of the easterly property line in order to build a deck in the back with views of the ocean, instead of a very large deck that was on the front. So again, if you see that red box, there was a very large elevated deck across the entire front or west facade of the original home. We'd like to put it at the back in the rear yard and down the side some for view of the ocean where the house wouldn't block it. And that would allow us to bring the house level with where the house at the corner is and meet the average. So the average in Belmar, we take the distance between the two flanking houses. So we would, if approved, we'd be meeting the front setback requirement. That's an average of the house on the corner and the house to our north. So if you can see that red box as to where the former home was and where we're proposing the newer home. The home, you have the picture of the old home. Can we show that or enter that?
I think Mr. Kennedy may have referenced that.
So I'm going to also offer this up to the board. It's
A3A.
A3A, so it shows the home on the left.
That pre-existed.
Do you see that dyslexic move there? The home was a slab-on grade with a basement that was pretty much out of the ground, but had windows in it and living space, and then a full floor, and then a half-story, which was bigger than our definition of a half-story. What we're proposing is similar to what we build a lot today. If we're not in a flood zone and we're not, and the water table is such that we can, we put a basement under the home that's half in the ground, half out of the ground, just slightly more in than out, so we meet the definition of a 2.5 story. Then we're proposing 2 floors and a half-story that actually meets the requirements by definition in the town. So we're proposing a 2.5 story over a basement. And that varies from what was there before, where there were 2 and a little more than a half floors of living space before. So in laying out what we think are modest rooms and sizes to put back the amenities that were there before, we've come up with the floor plans, and I'll walk you through them.
Mayor, before you walk through, and if you have your zoning grid with you, I just want you to point out the improvements to your proposed plan versus the pre-existing plan, and in particular impervious, parking, rear setback, and then I think there was a second rear setback as well.
Okay, so typically when I submit drawings to you, the board, there are 3 columns. There's existing, proposed, and what's required. So you can judge them accordingly. In this case, I've added a column pre-fire. So what is existing today obviously is different than what existed pre-fire. So I have an existing column, a proposed column, what's required today, and then a pre-fire column. So what Bill's asked me to do is point out what's an improvement in what we're proposing over what existed pre-fire, right?
Yes, and I submit you went from 8 variance conditions pre-fire to 4 variance conditions
Right.
proposed, and one of them would not change because it's a use variance. So you really took 7 nonconformities and turned them into 3.
Correct. And those are, and you can follow along, the first one, so you see that last column is pre-fire, that X was impervious coverage. Pre-fire, there was 55.9% impervious coverage on the lot. We're proposing 51.9, so that's a reduction. It was non-compliant before, just over, and it would be compliant today if approved. On-site parking, for the number of bedrooms and number of homes, there were 3 legal on-site parking spaces before. They could argue, anybody, that you could park more, but our legal sizes, there were 3 before, and we're proposing legal size 5 today. So that would eliminate that pre-existing nonconformity too. Then the next batch of items in the chart relate to the corner house, the bungalow. So if you jump down to where it says principal structure Surf Avenue, then there's a pre-fire, there was only a 3-foot setback, 2.9-foot setback on the northerly property line, which is the rear. And now we're proposing 5.1. Again, that's a betterment, however, the requirement is 25 feet, so that's why we're seeking that variance, but again, it's an improvement. And then the side setback to the east was 4.6 to the structure. We're proposing 5 feet to the deck and 13.2 to the house. 5.2 feet to the deck and 13.2 feet to the house. So that's, the house is moving more than 9 feet further off of that easterly property line. So that's an improvement too. And then the number of curb cuts would remain. There are 2 now. We'd like to keep the 2, and I can talk about that in a minute. But then you have some small nuances in the ordinance. The driveway is supposed to be a minimum of 1 foot from the side property line. Right now the driveway is right on it. You can see that on the survey, which is on the left side of the cover sheet. And if we're approved, we'd like to build a new driveway with new material, semi-pervious pavers, and keep it 2 feet off the property line. We feel that will align with that existing curb cut well, and that would eliminate that nonconformity as well. So other than the use, as Mr. Schaefer said, there were 7 pre-existing nonconformities pre-fire, and if approved as designed, there will be 3.
And Mary, you reviewed with Mr. Coley, who's been sworn, about the bathroom count of the prior destroyed home as a 5-bedroom, 3-bath structure, correct? And the proposed structure is a 5-bedroom, 3.5-bath structure, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm going to leave you there and let you keep rolling and then just talk about the what I call the de minimis FAR increment,
So if you want to go to the second page, please, I appreciate it. We're showing you the proposed first floor plan, the proposed basement plan, portion of that basement to be finished with bedrooms and egress area wells out of those bedrooms, a code compliant stair, a full bath, and a laundry room and a mechanical room. The first floor, which is on the right side of that same sheet, is proposed a den, 2 bedrooms and a bath. And then out of the den is a landing out the back of the house. On the front is a very small portico. There's also an exterior shower planned at the back of the home under the landing of the stairs at the deck. And then if you turn to page 3, the second floor plan is open floor plan, kitchen, family dining, a half bath, and a deck off the back that wraps to the south between the 2 homes. And then to the left on that same sheet is the proposed half-story plan where there's a small loft. At the top of the stair, a small bedroom, a full bath, and a small balcony off the rear of the home with, trying to grab ocean views as well.
Mayor, can you just indicate where you're proposing to locate the AC units for the new home?
Yep, and they are on the proposed site plan, their code compliant location, just at the east side of the home at the north corner.
And there's 2 of them?
There are 2 proposed. There's 1 existing for the bungalow, and we're proposing that that remain. That's in a code compliant location also.
Okay, the plans on page 1 say proposed paver driveway. Is that a pervious paver that
Yes.
you're specifying there? That would be a condition of the approval if we're so granted?
It is we would definitely, just want to make sure. Actually, the driveway is calculated at 100%, so we did not count on the driveway being semi-pervious, although I just said that before, that it was going to be semi-pervious to get to our number. There's some gray area as to whether driveways that are built of semi-pervious, actually you get the credit. We didn't ask for the credit there. The front walk and the open slat decking, we have claimed the 50% credit to get us to 51.9% impervious coverage. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, we're happy to put whichever pavers are required by the board, but we didn't count on a 50% credit for the driveway at all, so.
Okay. I don't know if you have any more on your black and white plans, or whether you desire to get to your site plan and elevation. Somewhere, I guess now is as good a time. Annie, did you figure out how you're going to take stormwater off the roof? You have gutters, leaders, where does the water go?
So we,
for Mr. Foley's question, how's electric, water, and sewer both going?
so I've not done a stormwater management plan, nor has the engineer for the project. If approved, we would be required to do that for a new home. The actual site where the house is slightly elevated, and we're not over on impervious coverage, so there's plenty of lawn left to provide gutters and leaders for stormwater management and keep all the stormwater on the property. The corner lot has a lot of green around it too, and even green in the right-of-way. So there's plenty of room for proper stormwater management.
And water and sewer is at the street where this home just
Yes.
has the prior home, correct?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, so I've colored the front elevation. We're hoping for a gray, blue-gray, cool gray, let the white trim pop. We've got some interest in change of place, it's not a box. And there's a small portico at the front, some small eyebrow roof, a little turret feel, a little cupola, trying to dress up a very tall, small footprint home. We meet the height requirement at 35 feet. And then I didn't color the other elevations, but you can see how that proposed deck at the south, and especially if you go to the next sheet on the rear, you can see how the deck would work in terms of its height and what can happen under it, and how we communicate from the ground up to that deck. And for fire safety reasons, we tried to put as many exits directly to the exterior as possible, so. Even on the back, we have some skirted roof. The hope is you'll be able to see some of the house from the back too.
Just comment on the, for the record, for the cupola, how that is worded or allowed under the height ordinance, if in fact it reaches the 35-foot.
It's beyond the 35 feet. It's an appurtenance that's specifically listed and allowed in the ordinance. And when the appurtenance or the totality of any appurtenances that extend above the 35 feet don't exceed 10% of the footprint of the home, they are allowed. And we're significantly under here. That's a 42-inch by 42-inch cupola.
And that's a bit of a Mary's signature topper.
It's just lends interest to the home.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else?
I do not, unless you ask me.
Well, you know, I'm probably going to ask Mr. Kashuba from a architect's perspective, from an aesthetic perspective, which is part of the use calculation, and may be considered a sufficient reason under the MLUL. Do you have an opinion, self-aggrandizing perhaps, as to the aesthetics and the beauty and how it fits into the neighborhood?
So the home that, I will answer the question, the home that was there was lovely, and I think the family spent a lot of time developing those plans. We actually don't have the real plans as to what was built, so I can't promise you that we have every calculation to the 9th degree, but from tax records and from your drawings, some sketches that Mr. Almachenko had back and forth, we think we've got a very close feel for what was there. I did not try and mimic it in look. The front open deck and the roof line of what was there kind of created a look that was lovely. This is a totally different look, and I think more present day look. And I think the deck flipping lets the house sing more, and I think this is an improvement over what was there aesthetically.
Okay. From a architect's perspective, if you have an opinion, do you feel there's any substantial detriment to the neighborhood or the zone plan by what you've drawn to?
I don't. So, I mean, you know me well, and what I did is I sat with the ordinance and I tried to marry what's required today more than marry what had been built decades ago and then improved a decade ago now. I just feel for the rebuild, the town deserves better decisions on location and bulk, and I think this is a better plan for it.
Thank you. Nothing further.
The presentation, you're done with the presentation?
No, I'm done with your hearing. If you have any questions.
We'll come back a little bit.
Okay. Mr. Kashuba.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Kashuba. I just moved, actually I moved Mary as an expert in architecture. I think you may have pre-qualified her, but for the record purposes, I'd ask that she be moved and qualified, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
Thank you. Same for Mr. Kashuba. Mr. Kashuba. You did. Okay, I wasn't sure whether you formally adopted him. Thank you. All right, may I call you Joe?
Absolutely.
Okay, Joe. So, Joe, you are both an engineer and a planner, correct?
Correct.
You've had an opportunity to review the effective site plan drawn by Ms. Hearn?
Yes.
You've consulted with her in this project?
Yes.
I'd like you to just give some engineering review of the plan from your perspective, mostly towards parking, stormwater, rain, drainage, willingness to comply with borough engineers' recommendations. Floor is yours.
Certainly. So it is a conforming lot at 60 by 100. We're 5,500 square on a corner lot. The proposed design, as Mary had indicated, the grading of the property is higher at the rear, so the entire property drains to Surf Avenue and 18th Avenue. No drainage onto neighboring properties. As indicated, the bungalow in the front is a 3-bedroom home requiring 2 parking stalls. The new home at the rear, as well as the pre-existing home, were 5-bedroom homes, and it will be a 5-bedroom home, which requires Previously, there was only 3 legal parking stalls on the property. What's proposed allows for 5 legal parking stalls, so it is fully compliant with the RSI's requirements for parking. It's fully compliant with, will be fully compliant with all the municipal requirements for stormwater. At the time of applying for a plot plan, if this were granted, we would provide stormwater management in accordance with all ordinance requirements and reviewed by your professionals.
Which means no stormwater runoff, from your perspective, will cross or invade properties by the adjacent property owners either to the east or to the north.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Continue.
So as indicated, this was subject to a fire. The previous home was destroyed on the northern portion of the property. This was the southern portion home does remain. It is non-conforming in front yard setback on the 18th Avenue side. That's going to remain 18.6 foot, or 19.1 is the average. There's no change there. We are improving the site with parking. The surrounding properties, and specifically this block, block 170, there's 12 lots in this block. The lot in question, the condo lots at the northeast corner fronting on Ocean Ave, and the commercial lot at Mama Luke's, those are in a different zone, the R75. In the R40 zone, you have 9 other lots. Only 3 of them have single-family homes on them. The other 6 lots, which is half the lots in this block, contain either 2 homes, a house and a garage apartment, or homes that have 2 units. So there's certainly the predominant condition in this block that you do have more than 1 home or more than 1 unit on a single property. And as indicated in the beginning, Ordinance 40-7.3, which is unique to Belmar for the non-conforming uses, buildings, and structures, does state that restoration of non-conforming structure, any non-conforming use and or structure inclusive of development on undersized lot that has been destroyed in total or in part by reason of wind, fire, water intrusion, exposure, or other act of God, may be restored or repaired, provided that reconstruction shall be limited to the extent of the previous non-conformity and upon approval by the Site Plan Advisory Board.
Now, I stop you there.
Sure.
So you were in conference with myself and Mary, and you reviewed, and all the professionals reviewed what previously existed, the setbacks, the bulk, the height, the orientation, and their right to go back and build what was there, but a decision was made. So let's make it better. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And let's keep it relative in size and feel as to what previously existed. Let's improve the overall condition, correct?
Correct.
So when you get to your planning hat, or if you wear your planning hat right now, do you have a planning opinion regarding that? And then also, under use variance, you should give a little testimony about site suitability, that the site can accommodate what is being proposed.
Sure.
Thank you.
So yes, as that ordinance indicates, you're allowed to reconstruct a home that's been destroyed, even totally destroyed. That's defined by ordinance, Belmar ordinance. So in this particular case, when we talk about the use variance isn't to allow a second home to be constructed, because they're permitted to replace what previously existed. This would be considered what we call D2 type of variance, or expansion of a non-conforming use. We're changing it slightly. Now, our expansion, as we've indicated, is very small. Our FAR ratio is increasing by 1.5%. The height of the home is increasing, still compliant with the ordinance, by a little over a foot, a foot and a half. And again, elevating some floors as well compared to what previously existed. We're constructing a new contemporary home that's going to be compliant with all the code, and also providing additional fire access, multiple means of egress to the home. We placed it closer to the street, but that was intentional to remove or to push it further from the easterly property line, which is certainly a benefit for air-like open space to the neighbors. We're conforming with the front yard setback on Surf Avenue at 17.9 feet, where 17.8 is the average. So by doing so, we're taking that volume and bulk and moving it closer to the street where it's allowed to be. Certainly a benefit to planning, benefits to general welfare. The front porch is conforming. The northerly side improves. Now, as we indicated, by definition, that is considered a rear yard, that northerly property line. But as you can see in the photos of the pre-existing home, the aerial photos, that has always acted as a side yard. You had two homes that fronted on Surf Avenue that were both about 5 feet from the property line, about 10-foot spacing in homes, which is what you would expect to see per your ordinance on any street. If you go down Surf Avenue today, you see kind of the broken tooth. You're missing the home that was previously there. So by moving that home to a 5.1 setback, I think it's certainly appropriate under planning, from a planning perspective, to place it in that location. It's where you would anticipate an additional home to be, where it acts as a side yard rather than a rear. The other improvements are to parking. Previously, the impervious coverage was a tick over. We're reducing that to comply and not taking the benefit of the 50% reduction for the driveway. So there's a good amount of green space on this property, especially for a home in the R40 zone. We're also keeping the same number of bedrooms, which also doesn't impact, we're not increasing intensity, we're not increasing the number of vehicles or parking, and we're taking a non-compliant parking situation, making it better, providing a compliant amount of parking. So all of this is a benefit to planning, certainly provides a better solution here rather than just reconstruct what previously existed. We have the opportunity to clean up some of these concerns, and we think it is certainly better planning to do so rather than just replace what's there, which is allowed under the ordinance.
Do you have an opinion relative to particular suitability under the use variance and the DC standard as such?
Certainly. So under the BDG standards, we can, a use has to have special reasons to justify the relief. The special reason most used in a use variance type application is the promotion of the general welfare. And if a site is determined to be particularly suited for use, then it can be considered a promotion of the general welfare. I think this site is particularly suited for the second home, because the second home was always there. The second home had been there. Looking at historic aerials, the second home was there, I believe, as far back as the 50s. So it is certainly part of the neighborhood, part of the fabric. So I think the site is certainly particularly suitable to have that second home because it has already operated, already been part of the fabric, certainly does not provide any additional intensity that hasn't existed in this area. So I do believe the site is particularly suitable for this use.
So from your, you hit a magic word that Mr. Escapes me. But from intensity and a density perspective, do you find this home to be any more intense or any more dense to the neighborhood as to what previously existed there?
I do not. I do not. And again, the balance here is that we're allowed to put the home back where it was. So we're not looking at this as a new home versus not having a home there. By ordinance, permitted to replace what previously existed. So certainly no more intensity.
All right. And from a positive and negative criteria analysis under the case law and MLUL, do you have an opinion regarding whether there is any negative criteria, substantial detriment to either the zone plan or to the neighborhood regarding this application?
I don't believe there's any substantial detriment to the public good. With regard to air, light, and open space, I think everything that we've proposed is actually an improvement for air, light, and open space. So when you're looking to reconstruct a home and change it or expand it, which is the expansion of a non-conforming use, you look at that impact. In this particular case, I do not believe there's any detrimental impact. It's only benefit. We come going further from the northern property line, further from the eastern property line, and keeping it within height limitations of the town, reducing the impervious coverage, compliant with building coverage, and probably the most important, compliant with the FAR. So whether there's one home or two homes, in total, this application is compliant with the FAR requirements for a lot this size. So for all those reasons, I don't believe there's any impact to the public good. We're improving the parking and bringing the coverages into conformity. So from a public good standpoint, I think this is only a benefit. I also don't believe there's any substantial detriment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan or the zoning ordinance. Quite the contrary, your ordinance allows for the home to be reconstructed. So certainly no detriment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Schuler. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Schechter. Mr. Schuler. Put that on the send check if you're ready.
I really don't have any questions, I gotta be honest with you.
sentences for them, and I think Mary and Bill have gotten better. So I don't have any questions.
The only question I have is, did you take any consideration of taking the house on 18th Ave down and just building a big house on the 60 by 100 lot, and having nice yard space and everything, versus two homes?
Is the question directed to me?
Just-
I think I'll address it to Mary. I mean, Mary, in the discussion, or Mr. Foley could field it, whoever prefers.
So since my parents bought the home, they had always used the what we call the front house as a way of actually supplementing the expenses for the combined property, them being on a fixed income. And what we realized is that that actually just does make a lot of sense. So as just as a financial matter, and because we were so happy with the house the way it was before it burned down, we've just decided that that didn't make the most sense to continue with that kind of a approach.
Absolutely. The quick question is, the couple on top, there's no access, it's just purely decorative.
There's actually a hole in the ceiling and the light from the windows comes
So
through.
it's a skylight,
Yeah,
no ladder, no nothing.
no,
Okay.
it's very small.
I was sketching here, and the porch on the side, it needs a car in that sketch, because that takes that modern approach that you've taken and made it old-fashioned also.
A little portico share.
And I think it's wonderful that you can park under that. The porch is probably open, so it's not going to be totally waterproof if it's pouring rain.
It's open slab.
Yeah, but it will be far better than going out in the rain, because you got that back staircase.
And a little side door right there.
So, all good.
I like the design, I like the porch, and I don't like the porch with its proximity to the driveway, so just be careful when you're backing in or something. Don't push down.
Right. We're gonna make those really strong.
Jim?
Is this a continuous driveway from 18th to Surf?
It is.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a fence.
It is a continuous driveway, and as the designer, it's that way because we are only allowed one driveway, but we do not intend for people to actually, and you kids need to hear this over there, for cars to drive and make the U and come out the other way, because it's very tight. But it is one driveway to avoid that variance.
And Ted, that 8 feet is the minimum width for the driveway?
Say it again?
The 8-foot width, that's the minimum width for the driveway, right?
Yeah, well, it would be 9.
Now, the width of the driveway, in your ordinance, the minimum width is 8, the parking space is 9. So the parking
Yeah, right.
space actually overhangs. Mind you, a car is not 9 feet. But the required minimum width for the driveway by ordinance is 8 feet.
And I just have one more question about the basement. You'll have egress windows in the bedroom with the Bilco safe lock.
Yes.
That'll be,
There's one drawn right on the front and right on the back already.
right,
Yep,
okay.
directly out of each
And
bedroom.
the basement ceiling will be about 7 feet?
7 foot 8 inches.
Seven
It's an 8
foot,
foot
seven.
4.
Yeah,
Yep.
good. That's all I have.
Okay,
Got the
then,
dream team.
and then
That came straight from the Olympics.
On the point that Mr. Diorio just brought up, I just want to make sure that we're clear about the partial, or the basement that's partially sub, partially above. That's going to be living area. So you've got 3.5 floors of actual living area. So the basement not being used as a basement is acceptable? Like it's for bedrooms to be down below grade, I guess is what I'm asking. That's acceptable use?
Well, it's considered a story if more than half of it's out of the ground.
intentionally to meet that ordinance.
Right, but then the question becomes, is that habitable space if it's below grade?
It could be.
It could, okay, that's what I just want to clarify. Okay, great, I have no further questions. Let's open up for anyone from the public that has any questions or comments regarding the proposed application. That would be a good time to step up. Seeing none, we do have some.
Hello, if you could just state your name and address and swear you in. Good evening. Do you swear to tell the information about your driving with the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. My mom's 95, so that gets us. Anytime I see a home by Mary Hearn, I'm thrilled. But I've been in town for 40 years, and I remember when the whole town was rezoned single family. And I understand it's a family home and how much you love it. I get it. And if it weren't for being on the corner, if it was a front house and a back house, I'd be like, you're crazy. Why are you leaving this little bungalow? And then behind it, building this beautiful house. But since the one is facing Surf and the other is facing 18th Avenue, I understand. But being a realtor for 30 plus years and going through this and seeing what the town is going through and all the overbuilding, I remember my customers going for variances. They had a front house and a back house on 3rd, and they wanted to build a family room with a little master suite above. They'd have to give up their back house in order to get something. So if you have a 2-family that's designated in a single-family zone, you had to give to get. And you have a 1.5-story home, and now you have a 2.5-story home with a basement. So you have a basement level and a whole other second floor level, 3rd level up. It's doubling the size. I don't know what's being given back, and I'm sorry you're losing things, and I want to support it because it's beautiful and everything else. I mean, if you subdivided it into 2 lots, I'd be like, hey, great, overbuild on the property, this is what you get. But I just want to implore with this board, stop overbuilding in this town. I drove down by the White House yesterday, and I'm shocked. 4.5 stories. I'm seeing this all over town. There's no space to breathe. I want the wind to go by. I'm thrilled you're away from the back of the property there on Surf, but it's just, at some point, I had a house burned down and they told me that I couldn't rebuild. It's a 3-family property. And so to hear that they can rebuild, I'm thrilled for them. But that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to express my opinions. And like I said, the designs that Mary does are absolutely beautiful. All right? Okay, thank you.
May I cross-examine? Ms. Novell?
Yes, sir.
You've been a realtor for 30 or more
I
years.
am, but I don't know why I'm being cross-examined. I didn't come up with that application.
No, well, when you make a statement or
I made my statement, yes.
I get to cross-examine as the attorney. Do you understand that they have the ability to rebuild effectively the same size home
Yeah,
that is being
1.5-story
proposed?
home.
No. Your math is all wrong. They
then
can
I'm wrong.
rebuild what was there in a poor location. Do you understand that, or you don't understand?
Sure, 1.5-story, same exact thing that was there. They could rebuild.
So you think they have a right to only build a 1.5-story house, right?
That's what I interpreted. What
Okay,
your
thank
expert
you.
said.
No other questions.
Okay.
Ms. Novell has other follow.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else here from the public speaking? Okay, you do have some.
Hello, if you could just give your name and address, please.
Thank you. Sandy Caputo, Surf Avenue.
Okay, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Plans are great, Mary. I've known this family a long time. I don't know, 40, 45 years. I am so looking forward to this house being rebuilt and having them back across the street where they've always been. Thank you.
Did you get yourself on camera, Sandy?
Hello, name and address?
Mike Sahabi, 112 18th Avenue.
All right, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just have a question about notification of neighboring properties. What is the requirement for that?
It's kind of the other part.
The applicant is required to provide notice to the individuals who own property within 200 feet of the development site. And actually, the requirement is that it be sent to those addresses.
And what timeframe?
Minimum 10 days prior to the hearing, and be printed in the borough's official newspaper.
I was notified, I picked it up today. It was typed out on the 12th, postmarked on the 15th, and at the post office on the 19th.
So, I'm sorry, it was postmarked when?
15th.
Right. So, well, Bill, do you want to address that, or you want me to address it?
Go ahead.
So what happens is, there's a 10-day requirement, and sometimes there is an issue. The statutory requirement is that the notice be sent to the individuals at the correct address in a timely fashion. And April, we have been having some post office issues, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So, it's an unfortunate situation. It's not the applicant's doing, and it's just, I'm experiencing a lot, not just in here, but in other towns too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do want to state, and Mr. Kenny, I don't recall at the beginning of this application, typically if there's going to be a notification, we want that to come up at the beginning of the application. So
Yeah, we did make that.
process.
Yeah.
Right, so I just want to make sure we're consistent with that, because I hate to have heard this and then find out at the
Right.
end that we got a notification problem, so.
April, we looked at the green and white, so that's.
Right, and they were postmarked July 15th.
Right, and so just as a matter of course, for the purpose of the board, unless members of the board would object to this, time to make that notification rejection would be at the beginning of the application, not at the end of the application.
I mean, in a perfect world, just because if there was an issue, we would have,
Well,
like
you
you
want to
said.
get that out of the way first.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
If we had a major defective notification,
Right.
we don't want to go through this process, so I just
Right.
want to.
No, good point.
I mean, there's an opportunity to speak at the beginning. Okay, very good. Do we have another member of the public? Oh, so you want to, I thought maybe you wanted to.
Thank you, though.
Anyone else from the public want to speak to this application? Seeing none, we will close the public session and open up for board comments. We'll do the same order that we saw.
Sure. So I think you've heard all the testimony. You're entitled to build something that was there, existing at the time of the fire. From what I can see, anything that had a variance pre-fire has been improved upon with this proposal, and anything that has increased has been minimal, and it's within the requirements that don't require any extra variances. And a 2.5-story existed previously, the 2.5 stories being proposed, and I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I gotta agree with Mr. Ross, and I think the only clarification there would be, I think it used to be a 3-story, technically, right?
To the best of my ability, the top floor exceeded 60%, but I don't have actual drawings of what was built.
We'll consider it that we're doing the same thing, 2.5 to 2.5. I don't see anything wrong with it, I think I'm going to do it.
As much as I would like to see just one house on a property, I totally understand. And I can remember March 15th like it was yesterday, so.
I'm agreeing with the previous comments. I understand the comment because I personally would like to see that single-family use continue, that it was put into place, but laws were put into place at the same time to allow continuance. I think that's the right way to put it. So, given the improvements that have been made in spacing and everything, it's good.
Mr. O'Neill.
No comments.
Mr. Giord, great design. No comments.
And for my comments, I live just outside of the notification zone down block on Surf Avenue. I was there when the fire started. My wife was there before the fire department arrived. It was an extremely windy day and the house burned down. My comment regarding the application recall, generally, I agree with the member of the public, you know, when it comes to back houses and how they've been treated in this town. If anyone's been by the property, this is not your typical back house. I mean, this is a lot that more or less, unless someone told you it was a back house, you'd never know. It fronts Surf Avenue. The house next to it looks like a separate residence. I actually didn't know that this was considered a front and back house, and I've lived there for years. I didn't know it until the first renovation that they came to us. That's when it came upon me that these aren't two separate residences. And so I agree with the member of the public that said, makes sense if this would be something the planning board or we should look at potentially subdividing that, but you know, that's not what we're here to hear tonight. So, I mean, I think this is uniquely, the property, in addition to it being turned down, the layout of the property is uniquely suited to allow for a home like this to go on it. I can't speak to the volume because everybody's building to the maximum height, maximum width. If I had to do it again, I probably would have, you know, gone bigger as well. So, in any case, I think it's going to be a beautiful house. It's going to be a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. I have no problem with what's going on, but I want to make sure that the member of the public hears. We understand the overbuilding situation. You know, we're trying to hold it back. This is not one of those properties to draw the line on. I mean, there's properties that come in front of us that we absolutely need to push back on. We need to get reduced. I don't think this is a good example to fight that fight. So I'm in favor of this application.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if the board is going to vote favorably on this, I've taken the liberty of writing down a couple conditions for the board's consideration. Obviously, compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations the development team made tonight. Compliance with all affordable housing rules and regulations and contribution, grading and drainage details to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer. 24-month time frame within which to obtain building permits or an agreed upon extension. I just want to ask a question. Is there anything about try to good faith underground utilities, or we don't have that?
No, I think that that's a standard that
Okay.
we should be adhering to, unless there's some overriding reason why that's not possible. And I can't imagine that they wouldn't want that if they're spending this much to construct a house.
Thank you.
I don't think they want overhead wires.
Okay, compliance with building and construction code, the post-approval certification that all plan revisions have been consistent with the plans approved and the testimony presented and any conditions in the resolution. Any outside approvals, and if the application or the requested relief materially changes as a result of those outside approvals, there's a need to come back. Compliance bill, I think that the 2.5-story requirements, which is what you said. Semi-pervious pavers for the driveway. Let's see, nothing is required, but the air conditioning will be in a zoning compliant location area, which you indicated. Let's see, gutters and meters. Submit the stormwater management report at the appropriate time to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer and or zoning officer. Keep stormwater on the property. Compliance with the height requirement, which we've been testified as would. No runoff onto adjacent properties. Mr. Chairman, this was not a condition, but I just made a big note here about Mr. Gregg's comments that Bill and Mary have an effective office spouse arrangement that they finish each other's sentences, so you can't say that enough in a hearing. Egress
No
windows.
jealousy.
Egress windows in the basement compliant with code requirements. And I think that was it. Mr. Shipers, are you okay with those?
The only correction I would make to that is I think my professionals testified that the utilization of pervious pavers will be in certain areas so that it will hit the impervious calculations as testified by Ms. Hearn. If she needs to clarify, I would, if you need that, but I think the resolution should say the use has testified of pervious pavers.
in our calculation where we have claimed the 50%, specifically for the front walk and the deck and the rear walk at 50% and not at the driveway.
All right, so.
They are pavers, proposed pavers, but not
So I should just say it's gonna be pervious pavers
for the front walk and rear walk.
for front walk and rear walk.
Right.
And my final comment is relative to Mary and myself, that for better or worse, almost like a marriage, Mary and I have renewed our lease where we share the
This
same
week.
building this week for another 5 years. So.
Hang my head for a third time.
God bless you.
Not built.
Right. So, Mr. Chairman, if those conditions are acceptable to the board, we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
Second.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Ms. Zena?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Peoria?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
20 minutes over, but.
Yeah. We'll see you otherwise.
We've got a request to take a quick bathroom break, so we're going to.
April, do you want boards?
Good luck. They're not even anybody out.
I was on the wait list until
Well, after Sandy, we're trying to.
yeah, they just took every.
Well, no, it was $1,500 damage assessment. That was dropped out. So they gave a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then waiting was approved. And now, last I heard, there's no rhyme or reason, because they can't, they're saying like it's an 8 or 10-year wages.
Ready?
They go a year and they
Recording's back on.
Okay.
I'll do a quick roll call again. Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Gregg?
Here.
Ms. Zena?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill? Mr. Peoria?
Here.
Great. So the next application is for Patricia and Antonio Blazer at 905 13th Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, is there anyone here with any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? Okay, for the record, the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it would be my humble opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. And for the third time tonight, we will swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted, you are the zoning officer of the great borough of Belmar. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, so help you God?
I do.
Okay? And we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the development application, and that's dated April 30th, 2024. And A2 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated May 10th, May 20th, 2024, slash May 20th, 2004. And then A3 is a separate standalone minor land use application denial form dated May 20th, 2024. And A4 is a site plan, and it's prepared by Michael de Blasio, and that's dated May 15th, 2024. A5 is a document called Topographic Survey of Property prepared by Lakeland Surveying, and that's dated November 17th, 2023. A6, floor plans and elevations prepared by Evans Architects, and it's dated May 21st, 2024, consisting of 2 sheets. And what will we call this? All right, I'm going to call this A7, and it's some pool details, and we can have the applicant, it's prepared by Pool and Spa, and it appears to be undated, but we'll get more information on that momentarily. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so if you could just introduce yourself and we'll swear you in.
Good evening, board. Michael de Blasio, professional engineer and builder for Patricia Blazer and Antonio Blazer behind me.
Okay, so, Michael, if you could just raise your right hand, and if you could raise your right hand too, and if you could just state your name one at a time,
Michael de Blasio,
and business address.
307 9th Avenue, Belmar, New Jersey.
Okay, and, ma'am,
Patricia Blazer,
and your address?
current address?
Yes.
53 Pine Street, Manhattan.
Okay, if you could just both raise your right hands. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let the record reflect that both individuals have been sworn. And Mr. de Blasio, you're testifying in your capacity as an engineer and the builder?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as an engineer, your licenses and qualifications are current and up to date?
Yes, sir.
And if I could just ask a couple real quick questions of Ms. Blazer to start the ball rolling here. So we're talking about the address at 905 13th Avenue, correct?
Right.
And are you the owner of that property?
Myself and my husband.
Okay, and how long have you owned it roughly?
It was last July, so about almost a year.
Okay, so July of about 2023.
Yes.
And the property is now vacant?
It's empty.
Empty. Okay,
And the house is demo, there is no.
I'm sorry?
The house, there is no.
Got it.
No house on the property.
Okay, thank you.
And by virtue of being before this board, before you guys approve me as a qualified engineer.
Yeah, we accept. If you could just hold for a second though, Ted, your denial letter, I just wanted to just go through this because it seemed like some of the items were just things that you needed clarification on or you needed additional details. So, you know, typically your denials tell us, or at least for me, clearly tell me, okay, they need a variance for this, this, and this, but the way that this was written, these 10 items, it's not clear to me which ones of these you're still pending clarification on or more information versus which ones of these are actually the variances that we want to discuss tonight. So could we just go through that? Obviously, building coverage is a variance, number one. Obviously, number two, lot coverage is a variance. Number three, you were asking, you said you need the floor area ratio. Did you receive it?
Yes.
Mike, is
Yes,
it
we-
68?
yeah.
You came back with that?
I came back with that, correct.
Yeah.
So I,
Some of this stuff got written on here, not by me.
Right,
And
well,
that's what
well, it's
screwed
good
up
that
on
we
here.
start this way, because everyone's gonna understand then what it is you have and versus what you don't have and what we need. But clearly, one
So
and
it
two.
came back at 68%, he's allowed 75, so that's okay.
Okay, so number three is not an issue. Number four, combined yard setback required 15 feet, proposes 10 feet. That definitely is a variance, right?
That's a variance, yeah.
Okay, structure does not comply with half-story definition. Yes.
That's a variance.
Okay, right, okay. 3 parking space, only 1 is proposed. Okay, that's a variance.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just on the one where it says 3 stories, someone wrote okay. Does that mean okay, we're correcting it, or okay?
Well, that's-
No, it needs a variance.
Okay.
It's 2
40.7.26.
7 with the attached garage, it must be set back 20 feet.
Okay.
There is no,
Okay, so
there's
that
no
is a
exception for that under the,
I need details on the dome.
under the average front yard setback of the
Okay,
garage.
so far I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of the first 7, 6 of them need variances. The only one that doesn't is 3. Now we're getting into the ones that aren't clear. I need details on the dome pool enclosure. Did you
Yeah,
receive?
that came back, that was okay.
Okay, so there's no, okay.
That wasn't gonna be, in other words, it could have been lot coverage, if it covered the pool, it was water resistant.
it takes the lot coverage.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so it came back okay.
okay. The distance of all overhangs to the property line, did you get that?
I did, he came back and he gave me,
On the latest site plan, 515, those are all listed. and that kicked the variance also.
Okay, so that is a variance.
It's in my notes.
And then number 10, open air decks are permitted over a porch within the front yard setback.
We'll discuss that.
Okay, so that's up for debate, or variance is needed. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variances and 1 TBD.
Correct.
All right, well, we got the scorecard.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Let's
Chairman.
go.
You just took the entire first half of my presentation away. Trying to explain all of the different variances.
No, we just need to say
No,
focused on what it
you
is.
covered everything I was just about to cover, so I appreciate that. It was exactly what the variances are and what we're asking for.
Okay.
And now we can get into the why.
Okay.
So we are asking for, just to summarize, we'll give you the quick 7, the building coverage, lot coverage. I'll explain these are due to the pool enclosure that we're proposing and we have provided. It is not a fully closed pool, it is an operating pool enclosure, so we are expecting that to be open for more than half the year. Without the pool enclosure, building coverage, lot coverage, all testify will be within our ordinances. We have a odd-shaped lot, which has caused some hardship in the design for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it narrows to the front. If you look at the back of the lot and then go to the front of the lot, we only have...
Could you help us with where...
We're going to talk with A4 mostly, and then we'll move on to the architectural design. So A4 is our site plan, showing all the side yard setbacks, location of the home, the front yard. So I understand, which was new to me, is that, with the narrowness of the lot, 40-foot lot, typical size home in a 30-foot wide home didn't allow for the traditional driveway to the side with the home towards the front and a detached garage. So with that, we discussed with our clients and architects putting an attached garage as part of the home structure. In doing that, I understand that does not qualify for what is the the block average for the front yard setback. While we meet the block average, which I believe is 16.9, 16.6, we are 16.7 with our front yard setback, but due to the garage being attached, that triggers the variance for the garage only, not the structure. And in doing that, we traditionally, as we build in Belmar, and we all live here, and we all know, moving the house towards the forward portion of the property is the desire to have a rear yard and have an area to hang out in the backyard versus having the home all the way towards the back and, having your front yard as your lounging area. And it also, I think, provides for the sight line to keep the house in this spot for the street rather than having one far setback home with a bunch at 16 feet off the road. But, I just want to introduce Ms. Blazer. Ms. Blazer has, and her husband have some history with the town. You're not total newcomers. They've owned a property in around 14th Avenue? 15th Avenue. They've been there for a few years. They moved to Tinton Falls as their primary residence. I'm sorry, same time. Until Lincroft. And they're currently selling their home to move here as their full-time residence. This is going to be their home that they have dreamed about, and hopefully I get to construct one day. Just in further summary, it's just you and your husband living here, grown kids, out of state mostly, the two of you. So we are not, it's not going to be an overloaded home with cars everywhere. We're just looking for a home for a couple with a couple grown kids and a couple visiting grandkids here and there. Yeah, so moving through, I just wanted to, so we talked about the front yard setback. That just kicked the garage. Also, on the front yard, if you look at the 3rd floor elevation, we have an open air deck on the 3rd floor, which is, and Ted, I just want to clarify, so the open air decks are permitted over the porch within the front yard setback. So there's no provision for a balcony. So I don't consider this necessarily to be a balcony because this is stepped back into the home versus sticking out from the home. So that number 10 was something I was going to assess. I don't believe needs a variance. That can be determined here or not. Either way, the design is that on the 3rd story, their only balcony, they don't have a front porch protruding the 6 feet. They don't have a balcony protruding the allowed 6 feet off of the property is actually stepped into the home, whereas I thought, just to clarify that it's not an actual balcony. Okay, so let's discuss, again, the angle of the lot creating a hardship for the home to be where it is. We do have our side yard variances. The side yard variances are not triggered on the first floor. The first floor of this home meets the 5 foot and 5 foot, where we don't get the 10 and 5, we do get 5 and 5. Unfortunately, to create our 4-bedroom home here, in order to get any reasonable sized bedroom, we bumped out the second floor and to create what was required of any kind of reasonable space on the second floor with the bedrooms, which are only, some are 12, some are 11, and only one of the larger bedrooms is 14 feet wide. So we're not trying to expand much larger than what we can, what is required to create these bedrooms. The first floor is an open space living room. We have the attached garage. The third floor is compliant with all of these third-story calculations. It is compliant with your 1/3 or less. The issue with creating a third story is the roof line. Because of the narrowness of the home due to the property line, creating a gable roof would have massively triggered a height variance. So instead of doing that and in trying to get what I consider a half story, we pushed everything to the front with that balcony, but unfortunately that triggered a true 3-story definition of a structure. So that will cause fire rating, it'll be 5 feet construction or a fully sprinklered home. The places are aware of that. They are willing to do all the fire ratings required, but the variance is still required to make it a 3-story home. We are not creating a flat 3-story home just out of the blue, full, 100% coverage. It is still within the 1/3 of the half-story requirement for our building codes.
Wait, could you run that by again, why you think it's 2.5 versus 3?
Well, I'm not.
You're saying.
No, it is 3.
You're saying technically you need to ask for a 3, but you just said that 2.5, you said it's really compliant with 2.5.
The square footage of the third floor is compliant with the half-story.
Okay.
So when we create these gable roofs and the half-stories in the middle, you're allowed 1/3 of the square footage.
So you're saying it's being called a 3-story because it's a non-gable roof?
Because of the roof line, correct.
Understood.
So another reason is that the Blazers' true desire is to have, and the gable roof wouldn't have worked because it would have gone east to west. The Gable's true desire is to make this home fully powered by solar, and we need a south-facing roof to do that. And if you look at the rear slope of the back of the home, that is south-facing, that will be covered by solar, and that will give them their desire of having an energy-efficient home. Multiple reasons, and again, gable roof would have triggered a height variance. Due to the flood zone lifting the home, we would have never hit 35 feet with a 2.5-story home. So we're able to hit our height variance. We're able to get a south-facing roof for our clients, but we do trigger a 3-story requirement.
This is not the interchange time, but I just want to make sure that I don't necessarily think that's the case. We've had 2.5-story homes built at 35 feet in flood zones. So the comment that you just made, I don't understand it. We've seen many homes in flood zones, 2.5 stories, 35 feet. You're allowed to build from a certain elevation. So I just want to be careful about a statement like that because it makes it sound like you have no other choice, and I don't necessarily know if that's an accurate statement. Okay. I mean, maybe you could clarify because I don't understand why you're saying you couldn't have done a 2.5-story house. You said if we did a 2.5-story house, we would have had to exceed the height.
That was our true belief in the discussion.
I don't know how that's the case.
Okay.
We see them every week, every month we see 2.5-story houses that are 35 feet.
I believe with the narrowness of the property and the depth, being that's a deeper home, anything that it would have, to get any kind of livable space up on that half-story because it is narrower than normal, that's where it would have created, we would have had to actually raise like cheat walls and then go up, and you got that center livable space. And that's where it was, and we're limited with also the height of the, about 4 feet out of the ground.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. It's good. It's a valid question. I need to clarify that for you. So that's the reason why we're requesting the 3rd story variance. It is not height, which I know is a critical dimension. Regarding the lot coverage and building coverage, the home is well within its building coverage for the home itself. Because the pool enclosure, and I do have, actually I do want to pass this around, I have an actual color photograph of what the pool enclosure looks like. So
All right, so
pass these
what do we
to.
get to?
Well, this is A7 or A8.
A, all right, so A8 is what?
Is a color photograph of the pool enclosure.
Okay,
And I'll
and
pass
it's
one
taken
up to the
by,
board.
yes, please. Who was that
Would you
taken
like
by?
one also?
Sure.
It's an internet photograph from Laguna Pools.
Got it.
Would you like one also?
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks.
So this is a movable, openable, operable enclosure. The intent is to leave this open during any reasonable months that you're enjoying the pool. Ms. Blazer is an avid swimmer. She wants to be able to use her pool all year round. In doing that, we require a structure that will be closed for the winter months, even with the heated pools. But with that, because of the size of it and the square footage of it, it's calculated, included in the building coverage, which triggered the building coverage. The enclosure adds 18.7%. So if we were to take that out, if we were not to include it, the home itself is 29.4% in building coverage for the lot. The lot coverage.
Well, just for a second, because I want to make sure we get this math right. Ted, for a pool, is a pool 50% considered?
Well, we're talking building
Water
coverage.
doesn't count.
What's that?
The water doesn't count.
Just the clothing.
Talking about building coverage.
Right. So the enclosure is considered
Lot coverage, that would be lot coverage.
lot coverage.
And building coverage.
Both.
Yes.
Okay. And if there's no enclosure on it, how's it counted?
The pool water doesn't count at all. Just the coping, anything around the pool counts. The water itself doesn't
So
count.
because of the enclosure, it's making it seem as if it's an addition on the house or lot coverage.
Or detached garage, building coverage. So if I could finish that comment, so the enclosure is adding 18.7%. When it comes to lot coverage, when the enclosure is open, then the pool doesn't count, which what Ted was explaining to you for impervious coverage. So if we were, when the enclosure is open and we discount the pool, you're actually only at 35% lot coverage with the current paver layout and everything. So it's really, worst case scenario is the winter months, 4 or 5 months out of the year, the enclosure is fully closed. That's when we're exceeding our lot coverage. The building coverage, I don't think can be discounted when it's open or closed, but the reason we're hitting the building coverage is not because of a larger home that's needed or a large detached 2-story garage. It's because of a clear glass enclosure for the pool.
Understood.
So we have covered our pool coverage. We didn't discuss the parking. With the front yard setback, we claim that we have one parking because there's only one that actually fits within the property line. We do have a second spot drawn in on our diagram on A4. It is unfortunately 2 feet over the property line, so we can't count it on our site plan. But I think everyone can see that there is a car that can easily be parked in the driveway and an additional car in the garage. And just for reference, the Blazers only have one vehicle, so that's just who they are today and where they're saying. So
I'm sorry, is it, you say you have 2 parking spaces?
I can only count one.
Okay,
As
thank
it,
you.
on the plan, I can only count one, which is the garage. The second one, which is a required 20-foot parking space, which is a very large vehicle, What kind of car do you have? A small Tesla. So their car will fit between the property line and the home. And they are certain large, one small. So we can't count that space that is shown is, half in and half out of the property line. So while we're looking for a variance for 2 parking spaces, you can see we really can fit 2 and the variant, and we'll only have 1 essentially. But, I believe the parking is sufficient on this lot. And again, because of the angle of the lot not being able to have a true driveway triggers that variance. So again, we've talked about the side yard now. We talked about the side yard setbacks, and I just want to make sure everyone is clear that on the first floor, we do have the 2 5-yard setbacks, which does not combine to 15. So that's the combined side yard setback, and the second floor. While you're allowed a bump out on second stories when you have fireplaces, you're allowed a foot or 2, I believe it is, Ted, for a fireplace or a chase or some other bump out. Bumping out the entire second floor in those 2 spaces creates, 3-foot setback on the second floor within the front end of this property. And that 3-foot setback is only valid by the time you move 8 feet back into the home. You're back within your 5 and 5. Because of the way the lot angles on the right side. So that we are asking for relief. That 3-foot setback wall in those areas will have to be a fire rated wall. We'll have to put special siding, we'll have to put the dense glass on it in construction. We're all aware and willing to do that. And with that, we have all of our testimony regarding the site, and I welcome board questions on the project.
Okay, we'll serve them.
Okay. Currently, based on this design, you don't have pavers around the pool, correct? You have pavers like a patio before the pool and the pool enclosure.
They're going to be within the pool enclosure, so they're all calculated as lot coverage and building coverage currently.
Because of the dome?
Yes.
All right, so you don't get hit twice for the pavers and that. Got it. Was there any thought about moving the structure back 4 feet, which then gives you an extra parking space and right side yard setbacks are better?
It would have been 10 with the current design. It would have been 10 to move it. Right now we only have 11 feet between the domed enclosure, which has a required 5-yard setback on the back and on the side. So if you look at the back of the property, there's a 5 in blue, a very small 5 in blue. That is the setback to the enclosure, and this is ultimately the size enclosure that's required for the pool in order to be able to.
Well, it would cut, if you move back 4 feet, you would cut that paver section.
Right, so we only have 10 feet between the paver, between the house and the domed enclosure currently. So it really would eliminate any kind of, even 6 feet's even small for a front porch, let alone any kind of back patio to sit out on when the enclosure's closed during the winter to grill on or anything like that. So moving the house back would really eliminate being able to put that enclosure in or require us to move the enclosure back into a 5-yard setback. I don't think we can do that due to the fact it would have to be a rated enclosure and it's glass, so I'd have to ask about that if it's even possible.
What is the backyard setback for the enclosure, Ted?
Well, that would be an accessory in the rear yard, so that would be a 3-foot setback.
However, anything within 5 feet has to be fire rated. Any structure within 5 feet, like a garage, you can put it at 3, but that wall has to be rated. And it being a glass domed enclosure, I don't know.
But if you, all right, so if you went to 5.
We are at 5.
Oh,
We're at 5 on both sides.
Oh, that 8.5 is to the pool.
8.5 is
Got it.
correct.
All right, just want to make sure.
No problem.
I think that's all I have.
I don't have any comments, questions right now.
Not really a question, because we talked about the floors versus 2.5, while it's still spaced as a 2.5. I think from the street, it would have looked better to have the slant in the front, but I understand fully why you're putting it in the back. That's my comments.
I'm still thinking that, with the right architect, that there could have been a way to solve your parking issue as well as your 3-story issue. Is your architect not here?
He's not.
And then I'm also a little concerned about not keeping with the there's a very modern looking house that looks like it would fit in well, somewhere in a more urban setting. It does not look like a beach house.
Well, I argue that there have been a number of modern-looking homes, specifically on South Lake Drive, 9th Avenue.
There's one, and it's a big regret, because when you look down that whole row of homes, that one sticks out like a sore thumb. So you can cite that home, but you'd cite it in that it is completely out of place for the rest of the homes that are along that strip. So, although, yes, it's there, and yes, if you like this kind of design, but I'm making my own observation that it really doesn't fit in with the continuity of the homes in the neighborhood and the homes in the area. But if my questions are: have you considered other types of design and as alternatives to this one? That's my question, because the design is a personal preference.
Yes.
Okay. Did you consider other designs, and why go with something that is so out of character than the rest of the homes in the area?
Two reasons. So the architect works with me for me at Update very often. So not that he's an employee of myself or Evo Construction, but we work together very often. So we talked about this to an extent. Not a licensed architect, so I can't testify as such. But as a builder, again, there were the 2 reasons that this home was designed this way. One is a bit of a personal preference, and 2 is the solar panels off the back roof facing south. So there were 2 major, and to not, and I will stand to not create a taller structure with the gable roof, I believe is another strong point.
Okay. All right, thank you.
That's my opinion.
The only question I have is about drainage.
Okay, yeah, we will complete, and also the full landscaping design will be done. I built a home for Patty before, and she loves her, large bushes and trees and stuff like that. So we will be full site design. I will complete that as I've done this town many times with drainage, and everything will be, nothing on other properties coming to the front or captured on site.
Just in terms of some clarity, the roof design, not being an A-shaped roof, is mostly because of the solar. And the 3 stories is then a result of the roof design.
Correct.
So if it were not for the solar, you could have done an A roof or something like that.
We believe we would have triggered a height variance.
Right.
So
it's either a height variance or a 3-story variance.
Right. And I think in this road, no one wants a 40-foot tall home. And to get that half story, I think it's better to keep it at 35.
I understand. That's all I got.
Thank you.
So you're allowed 35 above the base flood elevation, right? So what is the base flood elevation there?
10. 10.
Because some of the homes, some of the homes there that can or could have raised, and they seem considerably high. There's nothing like on the bottom floors. It looks like that one on the corner. There's a big green one on the corner. I mean, that's pretty high up in the air before the first floor. This looks like it's.
We have our calculation of 35 to the top.
No, I'm talking about the first floor. To me, looks like very low. Like you're vulnerable there. Is that just?
It's at 11. It's a foot over the design floor.
Okay. I'm just thinking like the ones that I've walked by seem pretty high up in the air. Like you're going up flights of steps before you get into the first floor.
So I'm going to say actually, the way the architect shows it is much closer to the ground than what my site plan reads. So just so you know, the average grade around the property is around 8, so, I'm sorry, around 7.5, and we're at 11, so we're gonna be, 4.5 feet out of the ground.
I was just making sure, because I remember that was all underwater during Sandy, there were rowboats going up and down there, those streets, cooling people out of houses. Okay, I was just eyeballing it based on that drawing, looks like. Looks like you drive in and then you walk in.
I think it's a little deceiving the way he shows the
Okay.
grade, maybe the grade is.
So the garage there is lower than that living room, you're going up some steps to get into the
Correct.
living room. Okay. Yeah, I see it now. All right, yeah, that was my question, I just want to make sure that you're in compliance, because the, flood insurance is triggered, we want to make sure.
We wouldn't get a permit
Yeah, we
without
don't
being
want to
in
make, we
compliance.
want to make sure
of
you're
course.
not pulling everybody else's insurance rates up.
As you know, I probably lived in a few houses on your street also.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to save it for comment now, but I agree with the chairman, I do think it's a little out of character, it's a lot out of character for that neighborhood, that's a real old neighborhood, a lot of bungalows, a lot of, homes that have been there for a long time with that, cottage, seashore look, so I do think it's gonna definitely stand out on that street, on that corner there. I mean, if that's where you're going for.
We'll certainly consider a lot of different siding options with the seashore and the colors. I know it looks dark on the.
Yeah, can you tell us, what are you gonna use there?
So the colors will be more colonial.
What kind of siding are you gonna be using there? What materials,
It'll be like a hardy clapboard or a shake. But not, cement panels or anything like that.
Yeah. One other question, the pavers, I didn't hear anything, maybe I missed it because you were out there. Are they permeable pavers?
So, no, everything is calculated at 100% currently.
Okay, would you be willing to maybe do that? Because
So-
I gotta tell you, I'm looking at it, there's a lot, your whole backyard is domed pool or pavers. So it would be nice, considering you're at 60%, if that was a condition, maybe to do.
So if we did the driveway, because the driveway is only 16 feet to the front, we gain about 3%. And again, it's personal preference, and we're here for a reason, is the permeable pavers around the pool with the stones and whatnot, it is not as functional. And again, because the enclosure is going to be open half of the year, I'm asking for that relief in the lot coverage. Because we are nowhere near our lot coverage when that enclosure is open. We're 15% under. So that, we're asking for the variance for when it's closed.
It just looks like, I'm looking at 60%, and again, just eyeballing it, but the entire, most of the property was covered. I don't see how you get 60%. So, okay. I would like that to be a condition personally. I just think that we're asking for a lot here, and that's kind of a minor, I mean, you're putting a ton of money into this place, and there's a lot of building coverage, and it's an odd lot, I get it, but when I look at the backyard, and you can use a weed whacker to whack the grass.
Mr. Ross, if I may, so the only deduct, as the engineer, the only deduct we would gain are the 11 feet between the house and the enclosure.
Yeah.
Anything within the enclosure, when it's closed, doesn't matter permeable or not. So I believe my clients would be open to making the 11 feet between the enclosure and the home, and also the driveway permeable pavers. It'll make a reduction, I don't know, I want to make that calculation right now and get it wrong, but we could make that as a,
yeah, that was the portion I was asking for, yes. I mean, that's a good sized patio back there, so I think that would.
right, so it'd be 11 by 30, and the driveway already has 2%.
Yeah, 11 by 30, that's good size, right?
Let me just, Mr. Ross, if you don't mind, I just as to delegate on to your question here, because I'm trying to figure this out as well. I see the pool's 30 by 10 feet, and then the dome pool enclosure is being calculated at 22.5 by 42, right? So obviously the 42, it goes over 6 feet on each end, and then on each side, it's going over just 1.5, right? What is the surface where it's not the dome pool enclosure? What pavers, like, I see pavers, is the pool gonna be surrounded by grass, or like what?
Pavers, those will be pavers, which will be.
I see where it says pavers.
Right, no, I'm explaining, inside that box of the 22 by 42 by 42, the pool enclosure will be solid pavers, because even if I did them as impervious, I
No,
can't.
I'm not, okay, I just wanna understand, so that whole box is pavers? Not
Correct.
just where.
Pavers are something fully impervious.
Not just where it says pavers, that whole square, and following on what Mr. Ross was saying, I mean, it just doesn't seem like a lot of open.
So we have the entire front yard along the right side and to the entire right side where the largest part of the triangle is, all grass. We have the 5 feet behind, in between the property line, either grass or gravel. The gravel is calculated as 50%, and then along the whole left side of the property. So it is, we have the calculations, we have the numbers that we're only required 60%.
And I'm absolutely sympathetic to the fact that you're having to take that as lot coverage or building coverage when, that's a technicality. It
So,
really isn't.
Mr. Ross, to finish our conversation, just if I calculated 11 by 30, which is the width of the home, that would reduce another 6.5%, and the driveway, hold on, I have to divide that by 2. Sorry, you only get 50%. So that would be 3.2% plus the 2% of the driveway, only the portion between the driveway and the property line. So you would make a reduction if we did pavers in between the home and the enclosure, and then the entire driveway, including the up to the sidewalk, would be a reduction of a little over 5%.
So you would only need a 0.5% variance then, as opposed to, you just reduced it down to almost where you don't need a variance for that.
Almost.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, I was hoping that, opening this enclosure reduces it 18%. So
No, I get it.
we are nowhere near to needing a variance for this enclosure.
Yeah, and just so I'm clear too, because I think Mark was trying to understand what was in that, where the blue is. My understanding is that whole box is the enclosure itself.
It is.
Yeah.
And inside that
So it goes
enclosure
from
will be.
pavers, and then it meets the glass enclosure, and under the glass enclosure are more pavers. You see that, Mark? That's the enclosure itself.
Yeah, because it's 22 feet wide, right, and it was only 10 feet wide. Right, I mean, the enclosure is way bigger.
Which
It was
needs to
only
be
10
a
feet
wide.
wide.
It's a domed enclosure, you need space to stand, it only goes 7
I
feet tall.
understand, I'm
Or
just
something
trying to
like that,
figure it
right?
out.
7 feet tall, right.
You don't want to have to crawl around the edge of the pool.
Correct.
On the sides.
The theories that you could also have, the reason there's a minimum between the enclosure and the pool, just to give you a little background on the location of it, and I believe that's 3.5 feet between the enclosure and the pool on the back left corner, and that creates more of a lounge area where you have a lounge chair and whatnot inside the enclosure when it's closed in the winter, and on the right side of the pool.
Can I ask you one other question? I always get this messed up.
Of course.
But when we're in the floodplains, you're allowed 35 feet above the base flood elevation level, right? But from a person standing on the street, how tall is that?
So I have this home calculated at 35 feet above the average grade, because I typically like to see that.
Because you're showing.
Certain towns allow it over the base flood. I actually didn't even, I didn't want to go any taller with this, I don't think we needed a taller home,
Okay.
but we kept it at 35 to the average grade, which is tip standard zone at this time.
That clarified.
Okay, great. Okay, so board comments ends, public comment and public question time. We have somebody standing up here.
Hello, name and address, please.
Nancy Susak, 908 Thurston
And just
Avenue.
spell your last name, please.
S as in Sam, U as in Sam, A-K.
S as in U, S.
A-K.
Okay, good evening and welcome, and thank you for saying, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
First of all, notice that came out in a timely manner. I don't know if it makes a difference that your block and lot was swapped on the notice. It's not. You have the block 3, it should be block 138. Lot 138 should be block 3. Don't know if that makes a difference.
Thank you.
I'm going to go in a different order. I wrote this up. I went and looked at the plans this afternoon very quickly. I had noted as one of my comments about the parking, and per as 2 proposed, and now I'm hearing 1 proposed. When, we got the notice in the middle of June, when did the change occur, that the realization was, no, it's not gonna be 3, it's not gonna be 2, it's not gonna be 1?
Let's clarify that with the zoning official. Ted, are we allowed to count the 1 parking space that's half on and half off the property line?
No.
That's so, all right, so we have.
That's why the garage has to be set back 20 feet to get that parking spot.
Okay. So that would change at the speed.
Okay, there you go. I sort of laughed when you talked about the house. First of all, I just want the Blazers to know that it's beautiful. And I moved into 908, I bought the house last year. I almost didn't buy it because of the existing house on 905. It just was dilapidated, terrible, horrible. But I went forward and bought 908, and then soon after that, when it got bulldozed down, I was celebrating. So thank you for helping the neighborhood. Saying that, and again, it's a choice, but what I wrote down when I looked at the house yesterday, or this afternoon rather, is in 50 years from now, people will know that house was built in the 2020s. Don't take this personally, but it has that shipping container appearance of it, 2020 style. It does not fit into the neighborhood. It will stand out, but saying that, it's a lot better than what was there, and it is a beautiful house. The lap pool, the pool, so it is an in-ground pool?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I assumed. And then the house does seem very grand, as I said, and it's just, I have a little cape across the street, you have a bungalow next door, I think you have a 2-story on the other side. I don't want that to take away, I don't know if other neighbors are here, as I said, it's very pretty, but just sort of doesn't fit in. So if there's any changes to the facade to make it feel more like, you know, a shore house versus, sorry, I would say shipping container house, that would be great. And the only other question, and I don't think you probably can answer it now, just curious of the timeline. Again, new to Belmar, I'm excited. My house was a remodel, Bay Construction had redone it. Not by my choice, I went in and bought it. So that was remodeled. I know that the house 2 doors down, the back house is getting redone. The house across the street, kitty corner, was redone. There must have been a fire before my time. They rebuilt it last year. So there's a lot of construction. That's complete. The back house is still being worked on. A lot of things going on. Just be helpful to know for the neighbors the timeline, you know, when we can be expecting big trucks to be coming. And please make sure those big trucks do not drop their nails on the road, that we get flat tires, because that happens a lot. But again, welcome to the neighborhood. That's all I have to say.
I can answer a couple of those questions for you. So just so you know, if this were to receive an approval today, there's a 30-day grace period where we take the resolution gets approved at the next meeting. After that meeting, there's another 30-day grace period for appeal. Correct me if I'm wrong here. What? 45. After those 45, now we're 75 days before I can even apply for a building permit.
Got it.
Okay. So we're really looking at it basically an October start. And I don't know if you know me, I'm a Belmar resident, and also one of the larger builders in town. And we try to move quickly, and we're also extremely respectful of all of our neighbors.
Okay.
So, and please, you'll have my cell phone number, it'll be on this side.
And no nails.
And well, I can't promise no nails. No builder can.
How about we get our
But
tires covered?
There will be I have a magnet and everything on every project I have. We are one of the cleaner guys on the.
Thank you.
And Bay Construction is a great builder also, so
Okay.
I hope you appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Get nails on the tires, I can't.
Hi, Arlene Mikel.
Ms. Consuelo, and just gets another hearing. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, so help you God? Thank you.
Congratulations. I am so happy that house is gone. I'm a realtor. I showed it. I went outside and I threw up. I was shocked when you bought it, but I'm so happy that you're doing this. I love the look, and I mean, that looks no different than what they did on the tracks and Mary Hearn, you know, the tracks and 10th Avenue. It looks just like that, except that one's massive and gigantic. I remember 12th Avenue had a problem with the third story, and they made them do like this barn look. I think this is beautiful, and I know it's up to you guys, the half story or the third story, but as long as it goes for that 60% of the half story, I think it's a beautiful look, personally. Congratulations, and I respect it. So I just want to say that I fully approve of this. Thank you. Oh, and would you like to cross-examine me?
Is there anyone else from the public? No? So with that, we'll close the public session and open up to board comments. Let's start on this end.
I have no further comment.
No comments.
Just the same comment, basically, that Mr. Fitzgerald said, what I kind of said before. I'm still not, I'm not going to say anything about the description, but it just doesn't, to me, fit. That's it.
Thank you.
No comments.
It's very hard to say what, I know what Jersey Shore style is. It's certainly not Jersey Shore style. It's hard to say what architectural future will bring. Maybe, maybe the rest of the houses, as they replace them on the block, they'll look just like yours. I don't know. I don't dislike it, and it's not really me, but I don't dislike it. And I've had houses in my neighborhood, pretty modern looking house put up on the lake, and I'm in favor of it.
And Mr. Ross.
Yeah, I appreciate you had a tough lot here, really odd design, or odd shape, I should say. And I appreciate you working with us on the lot coverage. I think that brings it into much better conformance. I give you a lot of credit. I mean, I remember what was there before, and you had a lot of guts to buy that, tear it down, and build something that hopefully is beautiful. So I'm in favor of it. I mean, I think over time people will accept it and it'll fit in. Hopefully you'll be able to use some nice soft siding choices that doesn't make it stand out like on the corner. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
So,
I've commented during the questions section, so, but I would want to advise, because Mr. de Blasio, right?
Yes.
Mr. de Blasio is you're a builder, but you're not a board attorney, although I know you've come before us before. But I do want to advise your clients that you have, if you're approved, it's as Mr. de Blasio mentioned, if you're turned down, you would have to reapply and come back with a substantially changed plan. And so, you have the right to go to a vote tonight, or, decide that you want to make modifications. So that's something that's within an attorney would be advising you that if you think you want to, take another go at it, you can come back. You could say you want to hold and come back with it. Otherwise, you turn it down, then it's going to have to be a substantial modification. So that's where we're at right now. So with that,
With Mr. Fitzgerald, we did provide a couple of concessions and some testimony on what we would be changing to get the full board approval. Our intent is to leave here with an agreed, whether it's conceding something or whether I think we did with the impervious coverage. So if there's something else that's being requested of us, speak now, because we're here.
well, I think there was some comments made about softening the look, changing the siding. There were comments made about landscaping. I don't know, those were all just, general comments. I don't know that it was any commitments made, but, I think you've heard a couple of board members, are concerned about whether it's in keeping with the neighborhood or if it's in the neighborhood. But I don't know how my fellow board members are going to vote. So, you could let Mr. Kenny summarize and then go to a vote. I mean,
sorry, so you want to
Let's
go
do
through
the
it?
summary, yes, please.
All right, so if the application were to be approved, some of the conditions that I thought of ahead of time and wrote down would be the obvious ones: compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations that team made tonight, compliance with all affordable housing rules, regulations, contributions, a 24-month time frame, not to exceed 24 months, I'm sorry, within which to obtain the building permit after the resolution is adopted, obtaining any and all necessary outside approvals, and if the application or requested relief materially changes as a result of those outside approvals, requires a further hearing before the zoning board. Grading and drainage details to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer. I think we have the good faith effort to utilize underground utilities, no stormwater runoff management, stormwater runoff onto adjacent properties, compliance with the actual height requirement, 35 feet, we're going to get back to that. I'm assuming, Ted, you still need the pool fence, compliance with prevailing building and construction code regulations. If it's approved, the post-approval certification from the applicant's professionals that the plans have been revised in accordance with the testimony, the approved plans on the resolution, and then a fully sprinkled home.
You know, 5B constructions with fire-rated walls and ceilings or dampers and ductwork would eliminate the need for sprinklers, so there's two options.
Okay.
We'll discuss that pricing and construction.
Okay. In any way, compliance with the prevailing, compliance with any prevailing FEMA regulations. Now, I'm gonna come back to Chuck, to the pervious papers, Mark. Let's see, and just for the record, I know Ted answered this, but just for the record, no one in this room or on this board can give you permission to use another person's parking area for your parking spaces. Let's see. Now, Ted, do we have any lighting illumination standards that we have to worry about for the pool, or is there a borough ordinance, or do we not have to worry about that?
Well, you can't shine it on somebody else's property.
Okay, so you comply and no adverse light spillover. And now, I think there was, Mr. Chairman, you talked about landscaping. Is it just landscaping that you want to see landscaping plans, or you want those landscaping plans to be approved by Ted? So, and then we also have perpetually maintaining the landscaping, no adverse drainage. Let's see, now we're going to talk about the softening of the siding and materials. We'll come back to the one. And now with the semi-pervious pavers, I think we ultimately said that the area, the 11-foot area between the dome and the home would be pervious pavers, and I think we ultimately said that the variance is only for a 0.5% over the lot coverage. Is that what we said? And then, Ted, is there any reason that we, as the zoning board, would need the pool dome enclosure details, or is that something that the construction officer just?
Yeah, building department.
Okay. And then, let's see.
The building lot coverage, you calculated that just based on my rough numbers of what will be listed and what will be the resolution?
Well, you tell me. I think it was 0.5% over what's allowed, correct? 0.5%?
Right, we have, yeah, can we give a percentage or two, just as a flat to go?
You give it to me.
55%.
And what's allowed?
50/50.
50 is allowed.
In half the approved cost.
All right, so you wanted to say not to exceed 55%?
Correct. And that's reasonable.
All right, well, that's got to be for the board to decide, but we'll come back to that. And then, Ted, just so I know, is there, I know that the applicant was talking about, the applicant's representative was talking about, hey, we are complying with that 60% half-story. Do I need to say anything additional about that, about a half-story, or it's going to be a 3-story and that's all we have to worry about?
It's 3 stories, it's got a flat roof, it doesn't need the roof.
Okay. And then, again, softening the look, changing to the siding, landscaping details, and then the lot coverage amount. Those are things that I would respectfully submit still need some input from the board.
Well, what are the modified lot coverage percentages?
Well, I mean, so I think initially it was one thing, and then I think it was
Well,
first, they were just gonna go
60.5%
0.5%, and now they wanna go not to exceed 55%, just so that you all know what you're voting on.
I'm sorry, could you say it again, Mr. Chairman?
Sure. I think when they initially came in, they were seeking, what was it?
60.5.
60.5, and then I think it's sort of the testimony was after the discussion, it would be 0.5% over, and now with the clarification, they want a lot covered not to exceed 55%. Is that correct, Mr. de Blasio?
Yes.
But that's required, so there's no variance.
So there would be no variance.
Oh.
Okay. So the condition would be comply with lot coverage. And,
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the next thing was, did you want additional landscaping, anything specific, or did you just want to discuss that?
I just think that was in keeping with trying to get it to fit in better with the neighborhood.
Right.
But I think stated that was
And then I guess the last thing would be, is there any specific preference to the softening of the appearance, the siding?
I don't think we could, I was gonna say, I don't think.
Okay, it was a discussion on
Those
it.
requirements, I mean, we could opine on it, but we can't.
Okay.
We can't create.
There will be a mixture of cedar plank and hardy plank siding to give it a softer look. Third floor will most likely be cedar, so that'll give it a little shore look. I know you can see that with the rendering. There will be a mixture and have plenty of beachy products, not a black and white home, you know, that things stick out.
Yeah, black and white's even good. I just didn't want like flamingo pink or something. I've seen some on the ocean front that
My clients and interior designers, I promise you, you're gonna like what she picks out.
So, Mr. Chairman, those were the gist of my notes.
Okay, thank you for summarizing, Mr. Penny. So with that, does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
No.
Mr. Lubin?
I'm gonna say yes, even though we all know now that it's a little out of style.
Mr. O'Neill? Mr. Diorio?
Yes.
Congratulations. Good luck. I hope your project goes well. The kids have been doing great. I put those headphones
Mr. de Blasio. Big question. Sorry. I look around the corner. What was the thing with the firing? Is that firing confirmed on that?
They're getting a month's worth today. All right, Mr. Chairman, this is on the Brokowski application, 105 15th Avenue. Is there anyone here who had any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the notice? Okay, so we reviewed, the board secretary and I found everything to be in order, so that we have jurisdiction to proceed. For the fourth and final time tonight, Ted, Bianchi, you are the borough's zoning officer. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God? Okay? And we will mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the development application, and that's dated February 20th, 2023. Great. And then A2 is going to be the application checklist. And then A3 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated December 28, 2023 / February 6, 2024. And I guess we'll mark as A4 is the minor land use application denial form dated February 6, 2024. And A5, the architectural floor plans and elevations prepared by Paul Amelchenko dated December 28, 2023, consisting of 2 sheets. I think that's everything, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good evening. If you could just identify yourself, please.
I'm Paul Amelchenko, representing the Brokowskis. I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey with offices at 917 Main Street, Belmar, New Jersey.
All right. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
And your testimony, as you indicated, licensed certified architect and license certifications are current and up to date.
That's correct.
Thank you. Sure, we'll just swear you in, please. Your name, please.
Tom Brokowski.
And just spell your last name.
He is a boy, O-R-K-O-W-S-K-I.
Okay. And do you want to testify as well? Okay, your name?
Jennifer Borkowski.
Okay, if you could just both raise your right hands. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God? And we won't swear in the kids, Mr. Chairman. We'll let them slide. But good evening, and thank you for waiting. And let me just ask you a couple real quick questions to get the ball rolling. So the application tonight is at 105 15th Avenue, correct?
Yes.
And are you all the owners of that property? And how long have you owned it, roughly?
11 years.
11 years. And my notes reflect there's a single-family home at the site?
Yes.
And do you live there? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you tell the board exactly it is what you're looking to do and why, and then you can have Mr. Amelchenko testify about some of the variances.
Okay. After coming to Belmar for many years to visit the Murray family, who's here today, and have lived in Belmar over 20 years, and fell in love with the community. A dream had always been to own a short house, and I did that 11 years ago. Not sure what you said. My dad helped me fix it up. We don't play. Dad, sorry, he's nervous.
It's very formal.
My dad helped me fix it up as basically a frat house and helped turn it into a home.
Shortly after meeting Jim, we got married. We have our 3 kids, our twins, TJ and Piper, and the little one there is Kenzie. We come down every weekend in the summer, and we've been bringing them since they were infants. We love everything about the house. We love our street. We love our neighbors, our wonderful neighbors. And of course, we love going to the beach, walks on the boardwalk. Not so much board meetings, but everything else about this town we've just fallen in love with.
We want this house to be a place our kids always want to come to and continue to make memories. We want this home to be in our family and to pass it down to generations to come. So we're here today to hopefully get approval to add some space and improve the functionality of our home. We thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Basically, the home is 125-foot by 100-foot lot. It's a 19-foot by 52-foot four-bedroom home with a small loft area for the kids in the future, to open up the existing floor plan for a living area, dining, kitchen, and a small bedroom on the first floor for one of our relatives. I need to make a correction on the second floor. I had noted originally a bedroom in that location on the north, or on the northwest corner. That's actually a sitting area. There's no closet. There's a small wet bar contiguous to that space, and that's basically the plan for that space. So it will be a four-bedroom home. The variances that we're seeking, one is lot area, where 4,000 is required. In the R40 zone, we have 2,500 square feet. The frontage, 40 feet is required. We have 25 feet. The front yard, 20 feet is required. We have 19.7 feet, which will be 19.7 feet in the completed project. The rear yard, we exceed that requirement of 25 feet. It's currently 40 feet, and our proposal will allow 27.5 feet. The side yards, 5 feet is required. We have existing 2.1 feet and 3.9 feet. And basically, that will remain in the future proposal. The total side is 10 feet required, and we have 6 feet requiring variance. Building coverage requirement is 30%. It currently is 42%. We are proposing 51.6% of variance is required. Building height, 35 feet, we will remain at 34 feet 6 inches. Will be 2.5 stories. I provided Ted with our calculations for that loft level. The impervious coverage, 55% is allowed. It's currently 59%. We are removing all the existing paved areas, including the sidewalks, and replacing them with pervious pavers, for a result of 61%. The FAR allows 70%. It's currently 32%. This will bring us to 95.5%, where we require a variance. The property description, the 25 feet is required, 15 feet is currently exists, and 15 feet will be the eventual description, the property description. The home will provide for the customary living area, dining, kitchen. As I said, a small bedroom, a bathroom, a mudroom, laundry here, a shower, which currently exists, but we're going to rebuild that in accord with the current requirements, where we will have a concrete curb which will be hooked up to the sanitary sewer. On the second level, we'll have a bedroom to the south with a bath and closet. And then coming down on the east side, we'll have 2 smaller bedrooms for the kids with a shared bath. And as I said before, that sitting area with a second floor porch with an open railing. And on the third level, the loft level, we'll have basically a recreation space with a veranda that's basically tucked in to the structure, as is shown on the rendering here. We have a small eyebrow that will project out 3 feet in a circular pattern So 3 feet will be the maximum extent, and then it'll basically be flush with the home on either side. The home will also have a large open deck on the 3rd level of the vault area, primarily because we have a minimal amount of lot area for entertainment, things like that. So we want to provide something on the loft level for the family space. That basically is our proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Alvachenko. Before I open up for board questions, I would just like to maybe just interchange with you for a moment. As I'm looking at the zoning requirement list that you have here, I just want to make sure that, no pun intended, but that we're on the same page. So the existing and proposed list here that's showing which ones require variance and which ones do not, right?
That's correct.
So lot area is staying the same, and you're saying that requires a variance, but that's basically no change.
No.
Right. Then you've got frontage. It's saying 25 exists and proposes 25, so that's a pre-existing, need a variance, but there's no change.
Yes, yes.
Front yard, 19.7, you're keeping that the same at 19.7. You gotta get a variance because 19.7 isn't 20,
That's
but
correct.
basically staying the same, right?
Yes.
Let me skip rear yard for a moment. Oh, no, rear yard's fine, no variance is needed. Side yard, 2.1, 3.9, basically staying the same. Total side yard, 6 foot, 6 foot, basically staying the same. This one is not, the building coverage is going from 42% to 51.6%, so that is, that's not a pre-existing, that's not staying the same, like, you're building a bigger house, so I understand.
Mr. Chairman, we're adding 228 square feet in a 12-foot by 19-foot.
Right, I understand, but I'm just trying to boil it down to the ones that are changing, right?
Okay.
Your impervious coverage is going from 50, staying at 59, was 59, staying at 59, so that's staying the same.
He said 61.
Okay.
No, it increases, sir, by 2%.
So this list on this here this says 59 here, so we need to correct that, right?
Well, I have 59% existing, and we're going to 61%.
But on this page, it says 59, so, Mr. Kennedy, please correct that,
Oh.
okay, or make note that it's actually going up.
All right, I
2%.
apologize.
Okay, so, okay, and then let me just, I'll circle back down for a second, and then FAR is a big change, going from 29.6 to 94, although Ted originally said 100, you corrected, it said 94. FAR, is that correct?
I actually updated with the revised plans to 95.5%.
Right, so we need to make sure, because that's another inaccuracy in this table, but that's not.
29.6, he said was 32.
Right, but I'm trying to get to where the deltas are here, right?
Okay.
So we have a delta in building coverage going from 42% to what's the?
I think it was 51.6%.
51.6, right? And we've got impervious coverage going from 59% to 62%.
61 or 62?
61% going up 2%, and then 4. So those are the three big asks, right? Like compared to the others are pre-existing, non-conforming use that you're just having to, but you're keeping it where they've been all along for years and years.
Exactly, we're not exacerbating in any way.
Right. And then we got to add parking, correct? And so parking, three spots required, and 0 being allowed. Now, I do want to inform, and again, I'm not saying that it's an issue. I don't want you to get nervous about it, right? But in the past few years, Belmar changed its zoning because they knew of properties like yours being problematic when it comes to trying to say, how the hell are we going to get a parking spot here, right? That's why they allowed front garages, right? Before you couldn't have a front-facing garage, but they passed an ordinance that you could have a garage and get maybe one, maybe even two spots, right? So that's just something to consider, because being this close to the ocean, and having no parking, it's a lifetime problem for you. And, you know, I'm just, it's a hard thing to accept, to say you're permanently going to be okay with that, but because there are ways of addressing it, even with a 25-foot wide property. And it may not be worth the trade-off in terms of the lifetime inconvenience that might cause for you. But having said that, I'm not weighing that I mean, you want to build a house and have no parking, God bless you. I wouldn't want to spend that much money and not have a parking spot. But anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that the board understands what the true asks are here. I don't know if that was articulated in your presentation. So we're in agreement that the big asks here are an increase in building coverage, an increase in impervious, a minor increase in impervious coverage, and then a fairly significant increase in FAR coverage, and then the parking. Is there any other variances that you're asking for that we just haven't spoken about just now?
No, sir.
Okay. I think we're ready for board questions.
Oh,
Let's go ahead,
I've got a question. The half-story, was that existing, or did you change that roof on the half-story? Because the roof line doesn't come within 3 feet of the attic floor, which doesn't meet the definition of the story half. That's a variance.
I'm sorry, Ted, I didn't understand what you said.
The roof line
Yes.
on the half-story, okay, I don't have a picture of that. Was that existing, or did that's all new?
No, this is exactly what we had before, except when I provided you the calculations for the loft area, I went from the 5 foot to above in my calculations for the floor area.
So that was existing already?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't change the roof line?
No.
On that?
So we don't need a variance for that?
No.
Second story, third and second story were added there.
When you're asking, Ted, when you're asking if it's existing, you don't mean existing in the existing building, do you? You mean existing on previous plans that were submitted?
Yeah,
That's what
new.
I'm referring to. He doesn't mean it's existing on the site.
Because right now it's a 1.5. Or just a 1.
Because of the configuration, Ted had asked me to provide him with calculations.
No, I
for that.
understand. I just think there was I misunderstood for a moment as well, and then I realized when you were talking about existing, you didn't mean existing on site, you meant existing in the previous plan.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that, I think we're going to start down with Mr. Diori. Okay, with you, Jim.
Well, you know, it's a very congested area as is, and you know, with a FAR almost 100%, you're really cramming a lot more in a crowded area, and also I think there's a bunch of decks that will be overlooking neighbors. I think I count 3, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just concerned about privacy issues with neighbors and people around.
Well, the third floor decks at the loft level, basically, we have a section of gable roof that would come up about 3 feet to create privacy from the neighbor and also for the Borkowskis. And then the one on the north side is basically tucked into the house, as you can see, so it's not really visible.
What I'm saying is them looking over neighbors, not neighbors looking over them. Believe me, I have people that have 4 decks, patios overlooking my front yard, backyard, and there's privacy issues with that.
Well,
and this is even a more congested area that I'm in, so that's my comment about privacy for neighbors.
Can I respond? The front of the house, most of the houses around us all have multiple levels of decks already. We're one of the few that only have the 1 story, so most of the other neighbors already go up.
west also is one of those particular cases.
Is it the one to the west, low?
So they have two decks also, or the second floor deck.
I thought the one to the right of this, where you have kind of a adjoining driveway, that's not really a driveway.
That is the one house left that does not. Every other house on the road does.
Okay, but that's the neighbor right next to you. So you're gonna be a lot higher with balconies overlooking your neighbor.
That's the neighbor to the east.
Okay, neighbor to the east.
Yeah.
But that's the one with, don't you have the quote shared driveway?
Yes.
That's really not a driveway, right?
It's not our driveway.
It goes down the middle of, the property line goes down the middle, so we share it.
Okay, but that's not a driveway, right, Ted? Legally.
No, we can't count it, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm just saying it's very congested. You're overlooking a neighbor's house with a bunch of second floor, third floor decks.
Not meaning to talk out of school, but that particular neighbor and I have had a conversation about the future of their home as well. So.
Okay, well, that's all I have.
You said you made the comment that you're adding on the rear and going up, so do you plan to use the current first floor framing and the foundation?
Not the
existing
foundation. Not the foundation. There basically is no foundation.
Okay.
We're going to
So you're basically knocking this current house down and
No,
starting
no.
from scratch?
No, we're retaining the first floor walls and working within those first floor walls,
But you're replacing the foundation?
but we're replacing the foundation, yes.
Wow,
Jacking it up.
And yes,
okay. That's my only comment.
yes, it's going to be totally restructured. I mean, the home basically, having been built
1940.
when, I mean, probably back in the 40s, something like that, is going to be brought up to code as far as construction.
What does that do to the height if you have to jack it up? You're gonna jack it up and then put it down the
Oh,
same height?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Ted, do people, I have a neighbor with a similar situation. Are they required to do that to maintain the existing footprint or setbacks, or is that an old wives' tale? I'm confused by people that are doing that instead of just bulldozing it and putting in a new house versus what he's describing. He's saying they're gonna jack it up, they're gonna dig it all out, and that's what my neighbor did. Then he lowered it, and then he knocked it down anyway. No, he got rid of it anyway, so this having to keep the existing wall myth, like, tell us about that, because if they're going around this thinking that that's getting them into compliance and they don't need to do it that way, it'll save them some money and they'll get a better build out of it.
The ordinance is substantially damaged, and they've changed some of that. And as far as I'm concerned, you take it down to the foundation. Now you've got a new house. Now you've got to meet the setbacks.
Well,
I mean, I don't know, Paul, why aren't you knocking this thing down?
Particularly because of that reason, we've got a 19-foot house now. You know, I mean, we'd be down to like a 13-foot wide house.
I know. So, I mean, you're going to require a lot of variances by knocking it down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because of the size of the lot.
Yeah.
But it's going to get knocked down.
Well, it's going to be a new house.
Yeah, it's going to be a new house. I mean, I go through this all the time, you know. They want to keep the first floor, but by the time they get done, it's gone.
I know, we've been there before.
Yeah, we have.
I don't want to bring up 8th Avenue.
No, I know. It's okay.
no, but we got to come to clarity on this because people.
The ordinance isn't specific.
This is exactly what my neighbor said. The town made me do it this way.
Right.
He elevated, built a foundation, lowered it, and then knocked it down. Knocked down what he raised the lower angle.
But then I have to bring it back up here because.
Well, what he said the
Well,
town.
that could be on a larger
Yeah.
lot that has room to comply.
Well, okay,
This
but,
would be different than
well,
just having
right,
a
but I don't
building.
wanna make them go through the elevation and keep an old wood and it's just, it's going through motions unnecessarily. If,
This can comply with 3 and 3.
I think you're bringing up a good point, April.
Pardon me,
Because
sir?
he potentially could
comply
have, he had 60, but.
with the variance for 3 and 3.
He's not, he doesn't have. the
Instead
same
of
Not with-
keeping,
Not with combined side yards, sir.
well, with the variance, we could give the 3 feet and the 3 feet.
Right, I
We've
think
done
with
that.
the hardship
Oh, I
of
see.
a 25-foot lot, not putting
Right.
it through the elevate, do a foundation and lower it again, it just doesn't,
You'd be saving this young family quite a bit of money.
No, it's just stupid, and people don't realize that that's not, they're being told it's necessary and the town's making them do it, and I don't think it's true. If we're gonna approve to rebuild on that existing footprint, it's not required to elevate it
Can I
and retain it. It's-
Well, if the foundation can't handle it.
go, go
What, you have
up,
piers, brick piers?
Yes.
Yeah.
go up to 200 and a half, same street. 2 years old maybe, garage going down, so you're getting some parking, brand new structure.
That's a 30-foot lot.
Is it a 30? Okay, but
That's a
still, I believe I would be happier with 3 foot on one and 3 foot on the other. You're still getting the same 19-foot wide home. You're getting a whole new, you could fit a garage in the front, like 200, only 200s goes down. But we have them all over town where they don't go down. I would be much more comfortable with that.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna continue with board questions.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
We're done.
We're ready to it.
Okay, good.
Okay, you're done?
I'm done.
Okay, we're gonna go this way.
So we're saying that they had planned to just lift it up and redo the foundation. If they didn't have to do that, we could still accept all the existing variances.
Once we grant it, we grant it.
Right.
They're allowed, we're not requiring them to elevate them because they're not retaining the existing foundation anyway. I mean, if they were retaining the existing foundation, that might be a different conversation we're having. But if that can't hold the house, there's no sense in elevating, lowering the old wood. It's just dumb.
Like Mr. Albertus came to us last month on 14.
Right, same
Because
situation.
they got into the construction, they stripped off the first floor and found it couldn't support the second floor. So they
So
had
he came
to,
back to us to tell us that he had to get rid of that old wood.
Well, this one is barely supporting the first
Yeah, I'm
floor.
sure the construction is not
Currently
high
it is.
quality, the old construction, that was just a summertime bungalow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was,
What you're saying, Paul, is that your fear of not getting this house put back as big as it is generated the need to raise the house and keep it.
Exactly.
So if you didn't have that fear and this board was amenable towards this rebuilding the house like you have it planned, you'd rather tear the entire house down and start over with a new foundation, build everything up from the bottom up, which is certainly a better way to do it.
Exactly. 6-inch walls, insulation, everything.
So it's our responsibility to approve that or not approve that. And I'm happy with the plan the way it is. And I would rather see this family get a brand new house than get a patched together house. And I would approve it that way.
But we're approving it that way anyway. They
Yes.
take it upon themselves to imagine that I need to elevate and do the
Because-
foundation and lower.
Because of a fear of not being approved.
It's a myth,
Yeah.
but it's not based on reality.
I don't know, I think this is a bad example though, to have a carte blanche change to that ordinance though, because a lot of times we get larger lots.
Well, like April said, this is a hardship. It's a 25.
I totally agree, but I just don't want it to be like, we need to change this ordinance and all this kind of stuff, because a lot of the times we're allowing them to stay with those existing variances because they're leveraging the footprint that they already have.
Right.
In this case, they have no other choice, there's no more, there's no.
But then also those people tend to game the system too, where they go through the motion and then they build a new house anyway, they call it renovation.
So let's just stop it here.
Right, and they don't have to put in they put it as a renovation as opposed to a new build, so. Okay, all right, I think we settled that one.
I have no questions.
And I think, I do have one question. On this veranda, Ted, it might be your question. The veranda is partially covering that second floor deck. That doesn't cover the covered deck, does it? Please tell me.
It's supposed to be an open air deck.
Okay, but there is like an arch that covers the second floor deck, a very small section of it. We can overlook
It
that.
doesn't meet the definition, you know, that.
It's not a covered deck, or is it?
It says open air.
It's
So part of it's got a roof over it.
Oh, okay,
So it's not an open air deck.
so then he needs another variance for that.
For that, it would, yeah.
Okay, so that's another variance for that.
Well, Ted, if you pardon me, that section of that little eyebrow that comes out, which is 0 on the sides, out a max of 3 feet in the center, that's not covered by a roof. That's open. It's just the section that's inset on the loft level that's covered by roof. This section here,
I just didn't want to overlook a variance that you might need.
thank you very much, I appreciate it.
I'm not saying I wouldn't approve it, I'm just saying I don't want you to overlook it.
Okay.
So I don't know, do we need a variance today? Ed? Just give a.
Should we ask for one?
Yeah.
Let's
ask for it. Okay. Is there any, I'm going to close the board question section, open up to public questions and comments regarding what we're doing.
Mark Snap,
Hello, good evening. If you could just state your address.
107 15th Avenue.
Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Thank you.
So I'm confused now. I really want Jim and Tom to have the house that, they want to build. But now you're talking about variances on lots that are very small. So when you start, Mr. Lubin, I can't read, I think that's your name.
Yeah.
When you talk about 3 foot on one side and 3 foot on the other, you're talking about a variance now in the foundation?
5 foot is required, but we have given variances for 3 foot on this side or 3 foot on that side. Then there comes window issues and fire rating issues and things like that. But honestly, what we've just been talking about raising and keeping, you're adding a load of money.
I'm sorry, say that again?
All right, I think I understand your question.
Okay.
Just, it's a 25-foot lot.
Right.
We've dealt with a number of those in the past, this board and prior boards, all those homes that are trying to renovate. If you tried to maintain a 5-foot setback on each side, that means your house could only be 15 feet wide, right? So we tend to recognize that as a hardship based on it being a 25-foot wide lot, and try to work with the homeowners to be able to build a reasonably sized home. And that's really, if you look at some of the other homes, you'll see the same all over the place, because now you can at least get a 19-foot wide home instead of a 15-foot wide home, instead of going 5 and 5.
Right, I understand that. I guess what I'm asking is this. Right now, we have 4 feet between the walls of our house. I'm the owner of the house next door to theirs. So they have a 2.5 foot side setback.
Right.
Right. So now you're talking about 3, but you're talking about 3 foot from that property line? So that you're talking about moving it them further away from us, or are you talking about?
Exactly where it is now.
Well, pardon me, sir.
Yeah.
The west setback is 2.1 feet, so you're correct. You're 2 feet also. So that's a combination of 4 feet, which the neighbor is speaking about. But if you granted us a variance for 6 feet, we could actually move the new house over a foot on this gentleman's side and have a 3-foot setback on the west side and a 3-foot setback on the east side.
Which would make their wall further east from mine.
Absolutely correct.
Okay. That's all I really wanted.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, you don't want to get it less than 3 feet, because you won't be able to have any windows. No openings.
Understood.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm confused. I thought we were leaving it exactly where it is, right?
Maybe not. Listen to the board's trying to help you.
Arlene, the town.
Good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide it, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I've been on 15th Avenue 30-something years. Jen was single, moved in across the street. She's married with this beautiful, wonderful family. She's an incredible neighbor. I know the history of 15th Avenue better than anybody. 105, 107, 109, owned by the same family. Gave it to the 3 cousins, Vinnie DeAnton, who had Alberta's Modular, tear the whole house down, and he put up the, what is this, forever walls, whatever, the poured concrete foundation, and went up. Connie in the middle, at 107, spent the same amount of money as the DeAntons next door. Connie went up, and she spent like $200,000 renovating, where the DeAntons at 109 did the same thing. And now here's Jen and her beautiful family wanting to do the same thing. So as far as privacy is concerned, everybody has decks in the front. Some people have decks in the back. Nobody's actually in the back looking at anything unless it's probably the fireworks. And as far as the little bit of covered deck on the second floor, I think that should be allowed no matter what, because when the rain comes and stuff, you just don't want it pouring into your house. You should always have a little bit out. So all I'm saying is that I wish them the best. I think parking is always an issue for everybody, but they've survived with 3 children with cars on the street. And whether they do a new build with the front garage, you know, pick up the house and do whatever, or do 3-foot setbacks, I wish you all the best. I'm completely for this application. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Ted, right now, the west side with the 2.1 feet, are you saying no windows on that side?
You can't have an opening in a structure within 3 feet of a property.
And that's not zoning, that's fire code regulations?
That's fire regulation, that's a building regulation.
So you're saying that the plan as submitted can't have windows on that side?
He was gonna keep the first floor, so he couldn't have openings there.
On the first floor?
Anything new, you wouldn't be able to put openings there.
Okay.
That's why I was asking about keeping it 3 feet. You get 25% openings on 3 feet. It's gotta be fire rated, but you can still have openings.
We just proposed a second floor bathroom window, a 2x3 window, and actually they can be fire rated. But we haven't included any other windows on that side.
So,
Well, isn't there a window on the loft?
I think we caught a big, what would have been a big problem here. I think we averted what would have turned out to be a problem, and you guys would have probably have come back. So I'm glad that we worked through this.
So
It seems like if they keep 3 feet on each side, that there would be no issue with windows, right?
Well, you're allowed 25% opening on that side of the structure.
Right. So, I think you might have to.
That's a normal amount, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's a normal amount of windows, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't really restrict it a lot. It's just if it's less than 3, now you got a problem.
Paul, you're comfortable with that, 25% openings?
Yeah.
And we're doing the same house, centered a little bit more on the piece of property, 3 foot on each side of the house.
Correct.
That's what we're talking about.
That would be great.
New foundation, new structure, everything new, and you're hoping that this comes in at a lower cost than it would have been by jacking it up and
Dramatically.
dramatically.
The only thing you guys need, is that change that was just discussed, is that, like, I know it's not for us to,
Yeah.
the parking situation, if they are letting you share the driveway, is that making that parking less or more narrow or less narrow? Less narrow.
It wouldn't impact it because.
It wouldn't impact, okay, that's what I want to make sure, because if that screwed that up, if you you have a
Yeah,
shared
thank
parking situation that helps you a little bit.
Yeah, you should ask, are you guys okay with it? It's your house.
There's an existing 2-foot wide walkway from the street to the rear yard currently that will remain, but we're going to do that in impervious pavement.
You got all this, right, for them to straighten all this out, so
Absolutely.
modifications to the footprint and everything?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say a couple real quick things? At the risk of saying unpopular things, but just for the record, so technically, the notice was to add 12 foot to the rear and add the second floor in the loft. So if we're dramatically changing it, that's one issue that needs to be discussed. The other is, just always.
Hold on, isn't that addressed by and other topics that come up during the course of the hearing?
I mean, that's for additional variances that are, like, the question would be, if someone got this notice, did they say, I don't care so much? As opposed to if they got a notice that said, I'm gonna demolish the existing house and build a new. I mean, that's, you know, a fair question. The other thing is, at the risk of overstepping my bounds, I'm just always a little nervous when, we're making major changes and that, I think I heard, the applicant say, wait a minute, I'm confused. So I'm just, I don't wanna, cross the line.
What do you deem as major?
Excuse me?
What do you deem as major? It's
No,
nothing as proposed, except slid over just, what, 6 inches?
Well, I'm just saying, I heard the applicant say, I'm confused.
I'm following up, but thank you.
So, okay. So anyway, so it's a question for you as to whether or not you're comfortable
I
with
think
this
I'll put that
notice.
up for board vote then, because I don't want it to be just my call. I'll let all of us.
Right, so I'm
make a
just
decision on
saying
that.
that would be an issue we would.
My own opinion on that is the slight shift that we just discussed that allows them to have windows in the center of the house and maintain 3 feet on each side is an intelligent change that was discussed during the course of this meeting that certainly falls under, and any other modifications, whatever that clause is.
But we're also saying not an addition, but a new construction is what we're saying?
Well, I don't think there's material changes here.
No, I just wanted, okay.
But yeah, I don't know, it's not my call. It's not my call.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the issue is, I mean, the variances I think are gonna stay pretty much the same, but the question is, and again, I'm not trying to cause problems, it's, are you gonna have a problem with the notice where it says this was an addition versus this is new construction? Now, in some other situations, it might be more of an issue. Maybe it's not. I just wanted to bring that up.
I have a question based on Tuesday's meeting. If it was just the addition being added versus a new build, how does that fall into the affordable housing bucket? Where you gotta pay into,
They would still pay either way.
either way? Okay.
But given the amount of renovation, I don't know for sure if it would change the price that much.
Okay.
That's calculated by the tax assessor, but either way, they would be paying a fee.
I mean, we pay for, Kevin, we pay for your advice, so we'd be foolish not to take.
I wanted to bring it up.
No, but I think the board should decide whether or not.
And I'm fine with that.
What I would describe as the minor shift in the plans and the minor relabeling of this into new construction versus addition, if the board feels that it's significant enough that it should be renoticed and reheard, or renoticed and, come back and then we could just rubber stamp it at that time versus just approving it tonight, they sound de minimis to me, what we just discussed. But if the board members feel differently, then I'm willing to.
And I'm not pushing, I just wanted to bring the issue up. So
Yes, if you bring it up now.
Well, I mean, but on top of it, my earlier concern was also because I heard the applicant say, I'm confused, and I think there was, but apparently they're not confused.
So you're on their Catholic, sir.
Right. Well, yeah, like I said, I mean,
Let's vote, let's vote. Does the board feel that the changes that we've discussed here to try to assist the applicant in building a more proper foundation and a more proper position on the lot, is it significant enough that they feel that the public notice was not appropriate? well, we're gonna vote on it.
Vote whether,
We're gonna vote if we feel like these changes are significant enough to require a modified notice.
I would say if the building was being changed from this design, then it would require a different notice, but this is gonna look exactly the same, except 6 inches off the footprint.
And the variances are,
The variances are the same,
Just how you
the
get.
building is the same, it's just how you get there. You just build it better.
Take the parkway or the turnpike.
So I'm in favor to go ahead and vote on it, and,
I just don't want it to be my call. I think we as a board have to vote.
well, I'd rather know what we're approving now than go with what they came to us for, and then they change it on the fly, and then they say, you know, we're gonna knock the house down.
because it could go that way anyhow. It could go that way anyhow.
Well, if we approve this and move it over, they have to knock the house down.
Right.
We know they're gonna have a new foundation and this house design.
See, they came into the meeting with a misconception about whether or not the house could be recentered on the lot. And we clarified that misconception. Mr. Kennedy, I can't disagree with Mr. Diorio. You have to tell us whether or not we feel we've got good cover here in terms of whether or not that's significant enough to advise them to come back with a modified notice. I personally don't feel that way. I think.
I don't feel that way.
I don't think the majority of the board feels that way, but you're.
No, I mean,
if you feel that way, then.
I wanted to bring it up. I mean, clearly it's not the best situation, but to Mr. Gregg's point, what we're looking at is what is going to be the end result.
Yeah.
The variances that have been noticed are going to be exactly the same, maybe a little better, a little worse, but that will fall under the any and all language. It's just, I just wanted to make sure that we just, out of an abundance of caution, we discussed it. If you're okay with this, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
The way I look at it, if I was a neighbor and it was raised up and new foundation put in and it looked like that, or if it was torn down and I wouldn't know. If I came back a year later and the house was built, I go, wait.
It's not material.
I mean, in other, I'm sorry.
It's not, I know the technical difference between
Right.
saying that we were renovating an existing structure.
Right.
But that is just a minor technical difference, because, let's face
Right.
it, they're not renovating an existing structure.
Right, but just for the record, in other situations, the difference could be significant. For instance, let's suppose it was a much more conforming lot, much more larger,
100%.
and you were only 2 feet off of the property line, and someone said, well, wait a minute, if you're gonna knock it down, definitely, you've got room on the other side. So, you know, in certain circumstances, it would be much more of an issue. Here, I get what we're saying.
100%. Okay, so you're advising that we can proceed?
If the board wants to proceed, I'm totally comfortable with proceeding under this scenario.
Kevin, don't we have to ask the applicants?
Yes.
They want to
We
proceed
will
that way?
ultimately have to
Yes.
ask the applicants if they're,
Proceed?
I can proceed, but I have a.
That's a different issue. Okay, but.
Yeah, no, but doing what we're talking about there, yes.
Okay, all right.
But
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with proceeding,
All
but.
right, so all right, let's finish with the board,
got it.
let's finish with the board
Got it.
questions, because there are a few unanswered questions unrelated, but we're choosing to proceed, Mr. Kennedy.
Got it.
Okay, where did we leave off with questions?
Public comment.
That was a public question.
Yeah, we were in public comment.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, any other members from the public here to discuss this application? No. Public session closed. One of the board members wants to bring up a point that maybe we didn't before.
So you want me to start?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the one that brought up, or partially starting over as opposed to doing that, because I've seen too many around that had to come back, or just, they get torn down anyway, because if it's that old, it doesn't. My bigger issue, now that we discussed that, and start over if you guys decide, is a parking spot. There are none. I know what it's like. I live a couple blocks down from you. me, it's not as big a problem. But I've seen too many, and I brought up 200 and a half before, which you may or may not know which house that is. It does have a garage as part of the frontage.
What's the size of the lot?
It said it's 30, but there are other 25s that have garages. And you would have to tell me as the expert, can you put, I believe there's 25s with garages, not 30s.
A 25-foot.
A 25-foot lot, 19-foot house, with half a porch on the first level and a garage, so that they have a parking space or even two with the front yard.
I'm more concerned, sir, about what they would lose in terms of living area in this very small floor plan.
They lose half.
They lose half their.
They lose 40% of the, or maybe 50 of the front porch, lower level only, and another 9 or 10 feet of the living room. So that would make it an L shape. From a non-professional.
Well, they would lose, it would drastically change the configuration.
Yes.
I mean, basically, a minimum width on a garage is 12 feet on a singular garage.
So you'd have a 7-foot entry.
Because you got 6.5 feet in car, and then you got to open the doors, so it's 12 feet plus the wall, so we're 12 foot 8 inches out of 19 feet.
So that creates another variance, because you can't have more than 50% of
The width of the garage versus the house.
May I ask?
All right, Mr. Lubin, wait, hold on, let's
Yeah.
just take a time out for a few
Yeah.
seconds. I understand completely, and I don't disagree with the point you're making. I would say, if in fact that was a road we were to go down, that's a renotice, complete redesign, gotta
Understood.
come back. I
Understood.
mean, so, you know, like the other board members, everyone would need to vote as to whether or not they feel as significant about that as you may. But that clearly would trigger a whole different set of events that's beyond what we're talking about tonight. So, because it's good to come back with a plan to renotice, for sure. So, you know, if you want to base your vote on that, you can, but.
Okay, great. I kind of lost my place here. Where are we?
Board comments.
Board comments, okay. Public session closed, board comments start, and that's your comment.
That's my comment.
Go this way and then that way.
No, off the street.
No, you.
Headed towards the porch.
The kids are doing great, by the way. They're doing better than we are. They're doing better than we are. Okay.
So I'll just say it, I'm not in favor of this based on the variances. I think you need to add parking.
Okay.
Would the board consider granting us a variance for a curb cut?
No, if we're gonna start, if we're gonna go down that road, then I do think a redesign and renotice is gonna be required. So if you're reconsidering getting parking, I think you let the board comments happen, and then we could have that conversation, okay? Because I do think if you're reconsidering what you want to do, design changes like that go beyond what we agreed to with Mr. Kennedy a few moments ago, where we thought they would be minimus, and now you're talking about significant design changes that I do believe is going to require it to be renoticed and the public to be made aware that the design has changed that significantly.
Duly noted. Thank you.
All right, so
I have an issue with the overall size on that lot. I mean, the FAR is over 20, 25% over, the required, it's 25 over. And it's a small lot, and, we're trying to give people benefit of the doubt. They go 5-6% over, 25% over on this size lot. I'm not in favor of it, just based on the size.
okay.
have a smaller lot, we have a building plan, eliminating, raising it up, keep the footprint, we're gonna have to redo the foundation anyway. Parking is parking, on a lot of the streets, there's no parking. I'll give you a spot in my driveway.
You don't get out that far, right?
No.
Mr. Gregg? Every time we have a small lot like this, we always deal with an exorbitant number of variances. And I understand that, and I have no problem with it. You have to do it. There's a hardship beyond hardships in a little lot like this. And you've got a big family. What are you gonna do? I'm in favor of it. Mr. Ross?
Yeah, I applaud you for not doing the easy thing, selling and moving to a place and buying a bigger lot. You want to stay in Belmar, you're going to love, I mean, this is a great place to live now. You've got a perfect spot, you've got a terribly undersized lot, and I'm in favor of it.
Okay, and then, you know, for the board members, you know, who have dealt with these 25-foot lots many times in the past, me being one of them, it is significantly a hardship. It was, that was decided when those lots were cut up, when the town got cut up. They were intended to be just summertime bungalows, which is why they're allowed to be so small. But we are encouraging that type of redevelopment on what was summer-only homes, and we have to work with the homeowners to try to allow them to build something that's within reason. 2,400 square feet is certainly within reason. So I'm in favor of the application because I don't know how else you could do it. If it were me, I would not build a house that close to the beach that doesn't have parking, but I'm willing to approve a house because it's not my house, it's your house. And I would encourage, as Mr. Lugan was saying, take another look at this. And you don't have to go, even though we're approving this tonight, if we maybe approving it tonight, you don't have to go with that. You could rethink it and say, show me another plan that gives us a garage or gives us some sort of parking. Because I really think that's going to be a long-term regret, but that's not something I'm living with, it's something I have to live with. So I would be in favor of the application. So with that.
Sure, and Mr. Chairman, if I could just say one thing in terms of what you said earlier. This this application requires an FAR variance, which under New Jersey law is a use for a D variance.
Okay.
So this application requires 5 affirmative yes votes. So unlike other applications where you just need a simple majority in order to obtain approval tonight, the applicant needs 5 affirmative yes votes. And then, do you want me, I just wanted to make sure you understood that. And then, do you want me to read through some potential?
I think we're ready.
So what we've talked about, or some of the things that I spoke about, in terms of potential conditions would be compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations the team made tonight, compliance with affordable housing rules and regulations and contributions, grading and drainage details to be reviewed and approved by the board engineer in 24-month time frame for obtaining necessary building permits after the resolution is adopted, needing any and all outside approvals, and if the application materially changes as a result, they would need to come back. And the post-approval, if it gets approved, a post-approval certification from the applicant's professionals that the plans have been revised in accordance with the testimony presented, the approved plans, and the resolution. Compliance with Ted's denial memo in terms of requesting additional information to the extent it is not. Let's see. And then some of the things we talked about tonight would, we're going to have the plans revised on that second floor in the north west corner. It was labeled a bedroom, and we're going to change that to it's a sitting area, and confirmation that the new home would have 4 bedrooms. We had, let's see, perpetually maintain the landscaping. We're going to revise the plans, Mr. Chairman, I think, to have that the impervious coverage was going from 59% to 61%, and the FAR was going from 29.6 to 95.5%. I think there was a little bit of inconsistency and inaccuracies on the plans. Obviously, nothing that this board approves tonight can interfere with any restrictions that exist with regard to the shared neighbor, with regard to the shared driveway. Ted, the height is complying. compliant. The number of stories is not, it's 3, but the height will comply. We're going to clarify that they do need a variance for that covered deck to the extent necessary.
Mr. Kenny, we are not approving a shared driveway.
Correct.
I mean,
No, but I just wanted
we're made aware that they're doing something over there, but we're not agreeing with it,
Absolutely.
or building it, or.
And I just wanted to state for the record that we don't have the authority to do anything with regard to that.
There's no driveway as far as we're concerned.
Okay. Compliance with all fire rating issues. Now we're going to, this changed a little bit, so give me a little attitude. We're going to move the house over so it has a 3-foot setback on the eastern side and a 3-foot setback on the western side. We are acknowledging that it's going to be a new build, and let's see, the house is going to look the same as what on the plans that were approved, and I think that was the gist of it.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny, for that summary. Appreciate that. Do you have anything in the summary that you felt was missed or needed to be added?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you aware, I don't know that it would matter in this case, but just, you know, so Mr. Kenny can clarify for your client's sake that if it does not get the 5 votes, how does that differ than if they chose not to go to a vote tonight, Mr. Kennedy? So they're
If
educated about
you
that.
decided you didn't want to vote tonight, you would come back with revised plans if you would hear what some of the board concerns are. Or if you vote tonight and if you get 5 or 6 or 7 votes, it's approved. If you do not receive 5 votes, it's denied, which would mean, as you were saying in the earlier application, you could only come back with a substantially different.
Right, but I'm saying the difference between a denial, right, versus them saying we'll defer on doing the vote and come back with modified plans now, is one or the other better for that? Like does it take care, like it's not a new, I don't know.
No, they wouldn't have to read
Is it
those.
substantially different than if they chose not to let it go to a vote?
Right, I mean, normally, whatever that means, the applicants, if they feel they have the votes, they want to go forward. And if they don't feel they have the votes, they say, all right, well, maybe I'm going to make some plan.
Come back with some changes.
Right.
With all due respect to the board, I have one comment, and that is, there's literally nothing we can do about the FAR other than lose 1/3 of the house, 1/3 of the living area that we're proposing.
Right, look at other houses that
That's our
are
choice.
25-foot lots and try to mirror what they've done.
So I think we have no choice but to ask the board kindly to review the project. Give us a vote.
Oh, you were going to vote, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, understood. Okay, very good. All right, so with that, does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, great.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lupin?
I have to say no just because of the parking. I don't like to be a bad neighbor, but that's my feeling.
Mr. O'Neill?
I'm a no.
And Mr. DiOrio?
I'm a no.
Well, parking doesn't change. It's the parking isn't parking. Can I just ask them, so how does this work if the denied then, how much has to change?
That's, it's got to be a substantial change. It's a legal question. You can call me, or you can call April, she can get you my number. That's a intent, but I can call you, I can speak with you offline on that.
Okay, just for clarity, I think the board members who were not in favor were pretty clear about the concerns that they did have. So listening to those concerns would probably be helpful if you came back to be reheard. I also want to make sure that you're aware that when you come back to get reheard, it may not be the identical 7 members that you see here tonight. We have 7 permanent members and 2 alternates
And those two alternates, all of our schedules change, so it's highly unlikely it's gonna be the same 7 people. I mean, we could try to make that happen, but I can't promise that it would be the same. And I have no idea that 2 members or 3 members that aren't present, how they would feel about this application.
If I may ask, notwithstanding the parking, which we've already discussed, regarding the FAR, is there any suggestions that the board members who denied the project might suggest that might ameliorate the situation and make it
We've got
acceptable?
it down to maybe, low 80s instead of 94. We've seen other plans on 25-foot lots that were, 2,200 square feet for 4-bedroom.
All right, thank you.
I mean, I think you're pushing the limit.
Thank you very much. That's all I needed to hear, sir.
No, I agree.
Okay, so,
That's not the
that
issue.
closes it, right?
What are we going to talk about?
No, you do, but I just want to make sure we're closing down this application right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry that it didn't get approved. Your kids were wonderful, by the way, you should be very proud of them. That they stayed so calm.
May I ask another question? Is there a possibility of coming before the board next month, perhaps, if we could make those modifications?
I suspect you might need to renotice, depending on the significant size of the depending on the modifications of modified notice.
It would have to be a whole new application.
That was the difference between going to a vote and not going to a vote. Getting turned down, that's what was trying to be explained. Getting turned down, you now have to come back with a new application and new notice.
You can call me tomorrow.
If you chose not to vote, you could have.
I understand.
That's what I tried to say, and you said you wanted to vote, so.
I understand.
Okay.
What would be
Thank you.
significant enough?
Excuse me?
What would constitute a significant enough change to get?
Well, you can call April and she'll call me and we can have a discussion. It'll probably be better.
If you've heard the 3 gentlemen's concerns,
Yeah.
address the concerns, and
Yeah.
possibly they would feel differently on voting again. But again, I'm just warning that it may not be the same composition of the same 7 people that we have right now. People
We know what we have to
other
do.
lives, that, we can't get the same 7. So, these 3 gentlemen, they attend all the time, more than likely they'll be there, but I can't, no one can promise that. So,
All right.
okay, good.
So, we had an application back in October of
Paper's gone.
2003 for Holly and Driazzi, 418 15th Avenue. It was full variances to do some improvements to a single-family home. They have decided to alter the plans. They're adding, actually, you have that letter?
Are we going?
So they have decided to, the previous plan had several variances, and the only they got rid of a lot of the variances except for the front porch setback. They're keeping that. But the impervious coverage, we approved it at 69%. And it
Not
was
to exceed.
not to exceed 69. It was 78 previously, and it got confirmed it was not to exceed 69. But now they're saying they want to do 75.5.
I think that's a new variance. I mean, it's.
So, just so you know, some of the other changes, the existing front porch is proposed to have the columns and roof removed, and new columns and roof installed. The existing roof has both a gable and a shallow slope, whereas the proposed roof has only a shallow slope, and the overall width of the porch roof is proposed to be reduced. Then the second, instead of a second floor demolition and replacement with a full second floor and an attic, which required front and side yard variances, the second floor is now proposed to have the front gable dormer removed and replaced with a larger gable dormer and shed dormer, which would conform to the setbacks. The existing rear one-story alcove previously planned to be removed is now proposed to remain with a relocated exterior door, and and the rear yard was previously planned to reconfigure the existing walkway, repave the existing patio, and remove a portion of the existing driveway. That was the impervious coverage. But now they're saying the rear yard work would only include reconfiguring the existing walkway.
I thought they would say, not on.
So their question was, if they need to renotice and come back to the board, or can they make these changes
All right,
administratively?
so what triggered additional variances, the modifications, or
It's
changes? The coverage was clear, that one, but what else was variance?
The coverage was, the only variance that was changing was the coverage. The other variances were, existing side yard setback, existing front yard to the porch,
I don't think we could grant a variance without having a
building
review,
coverage
right?
and
We
impervious.
can't just say, oh, that's okay. They got, it's a variance, they gotta come back.
Right.
So the question is
It's legal.
can we tell them that the other changes that they're making are okay, because it doesn't affect the variances, but if they want to change the impervious coverage, they would have to renotice and come
Aren't
back.
those other changes just building permit or construction code type things, like, or if they are?
I guess it's changing maybe the look of it a little bit, but it's eliminating some of the variances they asked for originally.
I mean, we generally take a pretty liberal approach, which a lot of towns don't. But we, on administrative changes, I think we're more sensitive, and that's, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we usually take the approach that if it's not dramatically different than what was approved, and you're not creating any new variances, or you're not exacerbating any previously granted variances, we sometimes bring it up to you administratively saying, are you all okay with this? But I do think, and I don't enjoy saying this, but I do think when they need a new variance, I think that's the end of the discussion.
But if they're willing to relinquish some of the previously granted variances, they could use that to ask for the
Absolutely.
variance they want.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the answer to your question, April. Like, they should come back and explain, we don't need these things, but we need this one now. We're willing to give back.
So do you want me to tell them
They gotta come
this
back.
whole thing has to come back, or tell them that they can make
Well,
all the changes except
if
for
they
the
want to increase the
impervious?
lot coverage, I think we'd be more sympathetic. You said that they would be eliminating some variances that we previously.
That's what their architect said.
Okay, so that would help them, their argument to approve the coverage, because they're eliminating variances that we previously
Okay,
granted.
so I'll tell them if they want to go with these new plans entirely, they have to come back.
Yeah. But correct me, Kevin, because I thought once we approve a variance, it's set in stone, it's done.
It runs with the land.
Right, so how do we unchange that now? We could unchange that, we could take those variances back.
On public, well, we can't take them back, but if they're eliminating them,
Right.
and the theory is, we usually wouldn't mind that because Ed's office gets very excited when we need less variances. So, I mean, that's, and if you're doing something complying, it
So
doesn't.
if we rehear, we would then, we would essentially revoke the variances that they no longer need.
My question though is, if they came in with the application and eliminated those variances, would you approve it? Because they don't need the variance anymore, they're building something better. If the impervious coverage stayed to what the board approved and everything else just got better, would you approve it, or would you send it back to the board?
No, I would approve that.
So then
But
it comes down to.
If they reduce the variances that they had,
I just
there would
think
be
that's
no
a
reason-
favorable change, right?
Yes.
Reduce the variances, and they could use that favorable change to argue, look, we're decided to come more into compliance with all these
Right.
things over here, and we just need a little more lot coverage. I mean, that's how I would come back to the hearing.
And the other thing is,
Noticing.
Right, but what I was saying was, like,
They-
if they kept the impervious coverage at the 69%
that we approve.
that we approved, but they made all those other changes that they said where they're reducing variances or getting rid of them, Ted would just approve it
Yeah.
and it would have come here.
Right,
So that's what I'm
exactly.
saying, can I tell them
Yeah,
that all those things are okay, except for the impervious coverage? If you want that, you've gotta come back to the
Yeah.
board and explain why
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to do.
And then just one last, in 30 seconds or less, Ted is very sensitive, rightly so.
That's a sensitive guy.
He is a very sensitive guy, and that's not a very well-known fact, but he is very sensitive, but he is very sensitive about approving something in the building and construction office that is different from what you all approved here. So that's why Ted always calls myself and April and says, hey, listen, how much different is this, and things like that, is it more compliant or
But
less
if they're
compliant?
not using a variance.
Well, exactly.
It's a favorable change.
But just so you know, there are some towns that say, no, you got approval to do X, and I don't care if you wanna do,
Better make,
you have to
cover
go
that
back.
lot up,
Right.
that more.
Yeah, and I sometimes, but anyway, that's, so it's finding the sweet spot, and so that's what that's about.
Yeah, but there, I think there's no doubt that if they're going up in lot coverage, we can't just administratively
Right.
approve that.
And by the way, there's nowhere to hide. I mean, if anyone said, hey, how did you do that? I couldn't even make up
No,
something.
you can't,
You know.
we can't just do that like on the side.
Right.
They've got to come back into the public because we're going to
Yes.
give the property yet another variance on top of the ones we've already.
Correct.
Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to adjourn. Oh, but did you want to talk about August meeting? Are we all set for that?
Yes, we're all set for the 29th,
And what's the regular date?
22nd.
Okay, so Thursday and Thursday. Okay.
You all can see Wizard of Oz on the 28th, Barry?
So that was a motion and a second.
What,
All
to
in
see the
favor?
Wizard of Oz or to?